Tim Evans was a murderer, all in his prison cell. And those who read about his crimes, they damned his soul to hell, saying, "Go down, you murderer, go down."
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Hughes.
And I'm Bobby Trippett.
And today we're going to be talking about 1959's Bucket of Blood.
I've never seen anything like it before, and I hope I never see anything like it again.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Yeah, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
This book ain't got no real coach.
Hello, pizza man.
We're gonna play a little game, baby.
I just love fun and games. Get a little girl all hot and horny.
You could have a decent once in a while. And maybe Daddy wouldn't have had to kill himself because he couldn't get it up anymore.
What a shame.
Come on, just step on the gas before we get creamed.
So 1959, the official oldest movie of the bin. This is a Hughes choose, everybody. Hughes, explain yourself.
I started doing a little bit of research, and I wanted to step out of the up all night category that I've put together a list of, and this was one of the movies that came up. And so I grabbed it and started watching it. I'm like, oh, this is actually enjoyable, so let's try to throw it on the bin.
Respectable. Thinking outside the box you've put yourself in.
Well, it's funny you picked this movie because this is one of my first forays into cult, or I wouldn't even necessarily call this an exploitation movie, more of just like a cult movie. Because in 1959, Corman was making movies on the fringes of movies. This is drive-in fare. There's a reason it's only 66 minutes long, so you can fit it in with another movie and throw that in a double feature or something and get people to go to the drive-in. But this was like one of the first movies I watched that took me down an alternate history of movies where I started to discover that there's some good things right on the fringes of popular movies. Ones that you might not necessarily know about, when you start straying away from Oscar winners and famous actors, and you get into what we have today, A Bucket of Blood. I was just waiting for somebody else to say something.
I got nothing.
Nah,
You just gave an anecdote. What are we supposed to add to?
Good night,
You're
everybody.
like, yeah, Mike, I completely agree with you.
So I inadvertently, you picked a movie that I'm very fond of, Hughes. And I didn't let you know this. I just said, yeah, fine, it's good. And you were worried we were going to think this was a boring movie.
I'm into black and white movies with a lot of dialogue and just like setup and very like cinematography more than anything else. And then this movie hit a lot of that. It's very old Twilight Zone before Twilight Zone.
It definitely felt a lot like a Twilight Zone.
Yeah, well, it was probably filmed quicker than a Twilight Zone, as we'll get into. This movie was a very quick turnaround, and we are talking, this is a movie directed by Roger Corman in 1959, and from 1954 through, 1960, he was directing like 4 or 5 movies a year. So this was a rapid pace for this one.
I believe it was 6 hours? I think that was the whole shoot.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it. It's you're not that far off.
No.
This movie had a budget of $50,000, which in 1959 translates to $422,000 in today's money, which I was like, first of all, that's insane.
No one gets that budget now.
No. To think that it cost $422,000 today, I was like, Jesus, 1959, man. What, do you buy a house for $5 back then? I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, 40 grand. No, not even 40 grand, like 5 grand.
Yeah.
$5,000 get you a condo in New York City. No wonder you could be a busboy and like live in a nice place. I'm looking at his place going like, a busboy affords that. Oh my God.
Now we could barely afford to rent this movie.
$50,000, and they complain endlessly about how small the budget was for this movie. So at the time, it was still a very small budget.
Even after the film came out.
Yeah, I have a lot of comments about it, especially from the main actor.
From our lead actor.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
So this was an American International Pictures. Hello, American International, AIP. Welcome back to the Grindbin. We've had plenty of your movies on. You're second to only Crown, but you might be first now with the amount of movies we've covered from you. And boy, do they range all the way back to the 50s through the 90s with various levels of good and crap. This directed by Roger Corman. Now, did you know that when you picked this movie?
No, I seriously pulled this movie off of a YouTube clip and just started watching it.
Really?
I don't research who's in it. I don't think that matters as much as what the content of the movie is going to be.
Certainly.
Well, you have inadvertently picked the most prolific exploitation director and producer of all time, Hughes, Roger Corman. His first time in the Grindbin as a director, but Grindbin All-Star, because Roger Corman produced Screwballs 2, and he has produced 411 movies. That's insane.
Unbelievable.
There's a body of work.
He still produces, I'm not even kidding, like 5 movies this year.
Really?
The guy produces an insane amount of content. He really needs no introduction to exploitation film fans. If you don't know who Roger Corman is and you listen to this podcast, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he's going to keep showing up and up and up on this podcast, and it's not for directing, because he actually stopped directing at some point. Mostly around the 70s, I think. And then he kind of did like 1 or 2 movies, but he went into producing, and he had basically the exploitation film shop.
Absolutely. I think his name is bigger as a producer than it ever was as a director.
For sure. Because, I mean, he was notorious for back in the day, you'd have a big blockbuster, he'd rip off the idea and make a movie that would come out the same time. So like, they're going to make Jaws? Well, we'll make Orca.
Absolutely.
And then just push it out before or after Jaws, whenever you can get it. The faster you can get it in there, the better. Get that Jaws money, you know? It's a real tentacles situation where you're just like, get it in there, get it in there. He'd try to get stars in the movies, but mostly it's just the Roger Corman players, which is why I don't write down many of the actors in this movie, because a lot of them they just kind of appear in Corman productions.
You know, just like it worked for Rudy Ray Moore.
But there are some people that were in Corman productions that went on to be much, much more. And we'll get into that. So, like I said, 411 producer credits, 56 directing credits. He still produces movies today. Lots of direct-to-streaming monster movies at this point.
Yeah, a lot of the sci-fi content.
Yeah, if you see like Pterodactyl versus T-Rex or some shit, he made it. Or
and then
like
there was that just god-awful Death Race sequel.
Yeah, he produced that.
There's
by
like
the way.
5 of those.
Well, he made a proper, quote-unquote, sequel to the original.
He made 5 of them currently. There's another one coming out this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Death Race 2050.
No, that already came out. That's the one I'm referencing.
Oh, well, then there's Death Race 2000. That was made in 2008. Death Race 2013.
Right, that's the remake and the sequel to the remake.
Death Race 2 2010.
Yeah,
it
gets insane.
Sharktopus.
There should only have ever been one of those.
This is like, if somebody's gonna give money to him, he'll make a movie out of it. It doesn't matter what the hell you want. He's like, you want another movie? Want another Death Race? Whatever. And this movie isn't even one of his earlier films, believe it or not. He made 20 movies before directing this movie, and he started directing in 1955. So that gives you an idea of the amount of stuff he was making just at a rapid pace. He was making multiple movies a year. You could make an entire podcast about Corman if you wanted to. Kind of what this podcast is, because he's basically the godfather of exploitation movies.
And I'm certain he's going to pop up many, many times as we roll on.
Oh, there's no way we're done with him. But
when we make Mount Grindmore, he's gonna be right there next to Mr. Crown.
Oh, for sure. Just do yourself a favor, look up his IMDb. You'll get a good idea of what he's made. I mean, we could go through all of them. There's Death Race,
Death 2000.
Sport.
Yeah, Death Sport's great.
Sharktopus.
And one of his more famous outings we're going to get to in a minute, just because of who it made a very, very famous person, was Little Shop of Horrors. Because that was one of Jack Nicholson's first movies, if not his first movie, I believe.
I believe Jack did a movie called The Terror, something like that, with like Boris Karloff prior to that. It was like real early on.
But
that
was
definitely one of his first.
One of his first movies, which was written by the screenwriter for this movie, Charles B. Griffith. He has 31 writing credits, and they are almost all for Roger Corman.
Fantastic.
Basically, he is the Corman man. In 1954, they met, and they started writing and directing movies together. The first movie he wrote with him was 1955's Gunslinger. The next movie was 1956, They Conquered the World, which he went uncredited for, and it was a minor hit, a sci-fi hit. And they went on to create a lot more movies after that, and he even directed some, the writer of this movie. For example, 1959, Forbidden Island, he wrote and directed that movie. 1960, Little Shop of Horrors, he wrote and directed it uncredited.
Uncredited.
The directing credit went to Roger Corman, but he directed this movie. Like, he directed Little Shop of Horrors, apparently.
Do you think Roger swooped in and was like, I'm putting my name on this
Yeah,
one?
the last 2 weeks of filming and edited.
I have no idea, but you also might get into, I don't know if it was a thing back then, I have no idea, but like DGA stuff. like Directors
Yeah.
Guild of
Oh,
America.
yeah.
Because, like, for example, Steven Spielberg was definitely not allowed to direct E.T. and then immediately go into Poltergeist. Like, there was some big issue with it, I guess.
It only recently got kind of revealed, like with certainty, with photographic evidence.
That Tobe Hooper was there, but
it was involved, but did not direct that film.
yeah. It's clearly a Spielberg movie. Look at all the shots, and you're like, this is not. I mean, Tobe
also-
Hooper, you're great and all, but this is
Yeah.
a Spielberg movie.
And you watch other Tobe Hooper films, and you're like, this isn't your style.
No,
This is not a Tobe Hooper film
Like, it
at
literally
all.
looks like E.T. Like, they went
Yeah.
from the E.T. fucking set over to the Poltergeist house and like, roll. I mean, it's like the same crew and everything. So
Yeah, but you know, the guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Eaten Alive, he definitely did Poltergeist, though.
Yeah.
I don't know how this went as long as it did.
Well, Poltergeist is a better movie.
Well, sure.
well,
Of
but
E.T.
yeah,
than
it's,
E.T..
it's not a Tobe Hooper movie.
No, they're very different styles. They're very different flavors.
1976, he wrote and directed a movie called Eat My Dust,
All right.
which stars one Ron Howard.
Nice.
I actually own Grand Theft Auto with Ron Howard, which is another one of those Corman Ron Howard movies. He made a bunch of them with them.
They
And
should have
they're
done a
all-
Grand Theft Auto mod with Ron Howard. You could run around as him.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the game. Like, it's not about Ron Howard going around killing hookers, although that could be a good movie.
He should make that movie now with the way he looks.
Howard now makes a Grand Theft Auto adaptation.
Now that it's a little harder to distinguish him and Clint.
And Clint, they look the same.
Right after the Han Solo movie, he's gonna go make his GTA adaptation. I can't wait. 1980, he made Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype, which is an amazing sounding movie.
Wow.
I've never heard of. He wrote and directed that movie. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2007 at the age of 77, so he had lived a long life. Corman is still alive, by the way, and he's over 90, I believe.
He's still doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Same with Dick Miller. So we get into the cast. The main character in this movie, Dick Miller, who plays Walter Paisley,
He's so great.
he is also very old. He's still alive. I think right now.
Haven't seen him in a very long time,
He's
though.
89. So yeah, you haven't seen him in anything
I think
because he's like,
yeah, he may have hanged it up at this point. Hung it up. Hanged it up.
Oh, Bobby.
I'm gonna read.
Spoiler alert to the end of this movie.
I'm just going to read one paragraph from his IMDb profile so you get an idea of who he is. Dick Miller, a native of the Bronx, New York. Richard Dick Miller served in the U.S. Navy for a few years and earned a prize title as a middleweight boxer. Believe it or not. He didn't look like it in this movie.
No.
Legitimate
not at all.
badass Dick Miller.
And then he moved to L.A. in the 1950s, mid-50s, and he just was noticed by producer-director Roger Corman and was like, hey, want to be in some movies? He's like, yeah, whatever.
That's how Leo got famous.
I don't know. I thought you were going to follow that up with something there.
just because of the gay sex.
Good night, everybody.
Bobby, park the van. Dick Miller has 179 credits on IMDb. He has appeared in a ton of movies.
Fascinating thing about this: 4 of those credits are playing Walter Paisley.
Yes. Do you know which movies they are? Because I do have them written
Yes,
down.
it's this one, and then he plays Walter Paisley in Hollywood Boulevard, and then The Howling,
Yep.
and then my personal favorite, Chopping Mall.
Oh.
He has a brief cameo as Walter Paisley.
And that movie where Vic Morrow was murdered, Twilight Zone, the movie. He was in that movie.
Is he Walter Paisley
Yep,
in that one
he
too?
was Walter Paisley in that
So there's
movie.
5 movies.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same Walter Paisley, unless we're doing like this, time hopping immortal.
I
thing.
think that's the joke.
Is
that
this
he's
a Highlander thing? Like
Yeah, I
a
think-
sad Highlander. Because in Chopping Mall, he's just
Sadlander.
mopping a puddle on the floor and gets killed by a robot.
I'm still for, what was that? Harlem Highlander.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
still waiting for Hughes to deliver his treatment to us so we can get started on that
We
script.
need that on our desks, Hugh.
Kickstarter.
Yeah, please.
We're gonna crowdfund that.
We know Rudy Ray Moore is not alive anymore, but I'm thinking
I'm
with
betting-
digital technology, we could bring him back just like they did in Rogue One.
Oh, yeah.
We'll bring back
Just
a
like
digital
creepy
Dolomite.
CGI Peter Cushing. We could bring back Rudy. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Could you imagine a CG Dolomite running through a movie?
Yes.
I often do.
No worries.
Or maybe you could have like Andy Serkis wear his CG suit, and we'll just put Dolomite as him.
I'm just picturing him in the mocap suit, but also wearing like a floppy hat.
Yeah, you gotta have the hat. There's not Dolomite without the hat. Yeah, maybe you could put Dolomite in the Lord of the Rings movies instead of Gollum.
That'd be so great.
Oh, God, that would be so good. Get back my motherfucking ring.
You imagine him sassing up Elijah Wood. Come here, bring me that motherfucking ring. Get over here. That'd be great.
And just Smeagol doing 15 straight minutes of stand-up. So on can lay heavy, but it'll never go deep.
Yeah, like he's following around instead of he's like, Precious, you just hear Dolomite jokes in the background. I bet you he's bite the fart bubbles in a tub. Call him. Dick Miller was in a lot of Corman movies. And then he started making appearances in exploitation movies in the 70s, including 1974's Truck Turner, the same year Candy Striped Nurses, and the same year Big Bad Mama, and in the same year Summer School Teachers. So he's just like Roger Corman, he's going from set to set. I assume that Dick Miller's just basically walking around the lot being like, yeah, you need somebody in your movie? Because I'm free.
I don't think he's asking. I think he's just walking in. I mean, like, I'm ready. Say action.
1975, Darktown Strutters. 1976, Cannonball with David Carradine. 1980, he was in The Happy Hooker Goes to Hollywood. 1980, here we go, guys. I always rip on Robert Zemeckis. He was in the movie Used Cars, and I wrote, now that's a decent Zemeckis movie, from what I remember.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
You've never seen Used Cars? It's like Kurt Russell and somebody else.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, dude.
And
It's been so long for me.
Sleazy used car salesman. It's a movie worth watching. I saw it as a kid. I thought it was great. It's one of the first movies I remember my parents putting on, and there was accidental boobage, and they're like, oh boy. It's like, when you're a kid and like a movie's rated like PG and your parents put it on, and then they were like, oh, whoops, it's one of these PG movies.
I can't relate. My parents were teenagers and they were horror fans, so at the earliest memories I'm watching like From Beyond. It's all tits and blood.
Yeah, I think third grade is when I watched the first Jason movie and Night of the Living Dead.
I would watch them on TV, so I'd get a lot of the TV edits. But I remember
a lot of cutaways.
I remember being on like a family vacation and somebody being like, oh, let's watch Caddyshack. This is funny. And then they put it on and they're like, oh, is this rated R? And Caddyshack is a hard R. Like, there is a lot of nudity and a lot of fucks in that movie. So, and it also has a bizarre abortion subplot, which nobody seems to really remember about that movie.
I remember it. I don't care.
1983, Twilight Zone, the movie. We mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And then 1 year later, he appeared in Terminator. And then, I'd say one of his most iconic roles for me, 1984, Gremlins.
He played Gizmo.
No, he was the crazy neighbor.
Okay.
You remember?
He was looked at me like you were buying that.
Now, here's the thing. He died in Gremlins. They ran the fucking tractor over him.
Okay.
Like, the Gremlins go in his house and, like, run him through the wall with that tractor, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, he's in 1990s Gremlins, too. And I'm like, did they just, like... Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I thought he was fucking in a thresher, like, dead.
I remember so little about Gremlins 2.
That's where they broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
I remember that part.
I remember Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan shows up, and Gizmo dresses up as Rambo at one point.
That was a good part.
There's like a spider gremlin, and he's like shooting a pencil at him or something. I was a Critters kid, man. I didn't give a shit about
Also,
Gremlins.
guys, real progressive, the first trans gremlin.
I know. We only watch it like during Christmas.
They're both a Christmas movies,
yeah.
so... the list goes on and on for Dick Miller. He's still alive. He's 89 years old.
I need him to play Walter Paisley one more time before he's done.
I think he's done acting. I saw a recent picture of him. He looks done, Bobby.
Really?
Yeah, he's very old.
When he finally does pass, I'm going to go to his grave and I'm going to change the name to Walter Paisley. with a little ceramic cat.
Yeah, just stick a knife in the grave, It'll be fine. He'll get the joke.
I'll sooner do that to Deason when he passes.
Oh, Deason's going to live forever. What are you talking about?
Let me just say, the day that Deason dies, I'll be at that graveyard, and I will have drinking a lot of water. Here's one more thing to add for Dick Miller. This is on his IMDb trivia. Even though he's in over 100 movies, this is one of 3 movies that he had the starring role.
Yeah, I read that too.
The other was Rock All Night, 1957, and War of the Satellites, 1958, which I believe are both Roger Corman movies.
Which, it's funny to think that he looks back on this one, arguably his most well-known starring movie, and be like, it was all right, I guess.
Yeah, he has some...
He's not a huge fan of this movie.
We're going to get into it. I'll get the trivia before we start the movie, and you'll see, he kind of...
Like, he doesn't slag it, but he definitely is like, it's fine.
He's
very lukewarm.
He's upset about certain parts of this movie.
Yeah.
The only other person I wrote down was Barbara Morris, who played Carla, another Corman player. Mm-hmm. He met her in an acting class and then immediately casted her in a movie, 1957 Sorority Girl. She has 16 credits. 1959, she was in The Wasp Woman which was, I wrote this down because it's uncredited. Jack Hill is the director of that movie.
no
Grindbin
shit.
All-Star Jack Hill, uncredited as the director of Wasp Woman.
Awesome.
1963, The Haunted Palace with Vincent Price.
think I
That's
saw
a
that one. Yeah.
Roger Corman movie. In 1967, The Trip. Now, that's a Roger Corman production. It stars Peter Fonda, and it's written by Jack Nicholson.
What?
And I was like, he wrote a movie?
And no one talks
Never
about
heard
it?
of this.
Well, I thought he's written a few movies, hasn't he?
1967, The Trip. So might have to take a trip and
I think so.
watch that one. 1970, her last movie was called Helen Keller and Her Teacher. She played the teacher, but she passed away in 1975 at the age of 43 from a stroke caused by complications from cancer. So it's a tragic end. And I didn't write down anybody else because I started going through it. I'm like, they're all just Corman people. Like, most of the people are just all in. Like, they have a bunch of credits because they were in, like, every Roger Corman directed movie. Like, I guess he was just, like, the Dolomite Players or, what's his name from Orson Welles.
Oh.
How he would basically use the same players in all his movies. And all
John
his
Wayne
radio
did the
shows.
same thing.
I mean, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
The guy who directed Bronx Warriors cranked out 2 more movies with the same cast like that week. You know, so
John Wayne remade the movie twice because he wanted to work with certain people and just use the same script.
And they were like, whatever, John, whatever you say.
Absolutely. They were both good movies.
All right, I like to make this movie again. They're like, whatever. It's printing money at this point. Just
Also-
don't put that Reagan in there. He's a real puss.
Real puss. Also, Jack Nicholson has written 6 movies.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know he wrote one. So a little bit of trivia. The film's origin came about when American International approached Roger Corman to direct a horror movie. And he said, no, I'll direct this movie instead. And so him and the writer Charles B. Griffith just came up with the concept of creating a black comedy instead of a horror movie. And back then, movies were filmed so quickly, they're just like, yeah, whatever, Roger, just fucking film something. It
I
needs to
respect
be out
that,
in a
though.
week.
I mean, like, he's like, I guess I'll do it. Sure. What was popular recently? House of Wax. Got it.
And then he's like, okay, but
cool.
get this. This is the story of it. So they just decide we're not going to make a horror movie. So Corman and Griffith just went to coffee houses on the Sunset Strip and did, quote, research on beatnik characters. So they could be like, all right, just write down what that asshole says. We'll put it right in the movie.
We're gonna go make fun of him.
They're like, I keep hearing the term wheat germ. And I mean,
Just be to work. At some point, we'll just lop a head off in the movie, and that makes it a horror film. So we're good.
you can just substitute all this shit as like wheat germ, just replace that with quinoa. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm looking at it going like, this is the same shit that's today.
Oh, yeah.
It's just hilarious how similar the culture is. We just kind of come up with new terms for everything. But I heard the term organic in this movie, and I'm like, that was a term used for food back in 1959? Like, people were concerned about buying organic goods?
I mean, shit. You look at a character like Maxwell, who we're going to talk about, and you've seen that guy. Like this week,
yeah.
you've seen that guy
I
several times.
He lives in my neighborhood.
Exactly.
I saw him walking down the street.
That guy gave me my drink at Starbucks this morning.
A suit with sandals, yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Then Corman and Griffith had developed their idea in a basic outline in one day. Then they shot the entire movie in 5 days. That's it.
That's amazing.
5 days.
I wouldn't have believed that.
Well, I mean, like, how do you get all the models that they used for the clay structures?
Oh, you
in
mean that
5
amazing
days?
art?
Well,
they killed.
he shot it in 5 days. There was prep work beforehand.
Yeah.
How? They just killed a lady and put her in clay.
People died, Hughes.
Good.
It's
That's how they did it
1959.
back in the
Good.
day.
One of those needed to die.
It's 1959. You don't think you could just get a drifter? Like, come on.
The rules were different back then.
I mean, they barely even had fingerprints back then. Come on. So then Corman and Griffith basically, they shot this movie in 5 days. I'm sure it was released shortly afterwards. And then they actually reused the sets for Little Shop of Horrors, which was filmed almost directly after this movie.
Wow, I didn't. That's kind of
So
cool.
they're just like,
In the final
2 for
scene,
1.
if you look in the background, you can see him pushing the plant in to start filming the next thing.
You
There's a
just
whole
hear
crew
Roger
rushing
go,
into the
"Cut!"
room.
He's-
I need everybody off the set right now.
All right, Dick, that's fine. Get down. Get down from the... Oh, did he really hang himself? Oh, shit.
Oh, Christ, Dick.
Okay, so this is what we got to do. Reportedly, Dick Miller was unhappy, and he was unhappy about the low budget for the movie. And he said he felt that it had a terrific potential to be a classic, and he liked the script and performances, but he felt the lack of funding weakened some of the best moments, including, he says that the conclusion of the film suffered greatly due to little time and money for makeup effects.
I see what he's saying, and we'll get into it when we get to that
Yeah.
part of the film. I agree with him, But also, this was the 1959 equivalent of a $400,000 movie about a waiter dicking around with clay.
I know, it's like
I know what you're saying, but chill, Dick.
I know, is Roger Corman's just like, hey, Dick, do you want to go back to being a prize fighter, or do you want to be in movies? Because this is
What do you
how it
want
works,
from me?
buddy.
You know?
He's like complaining. He's like, oh, I can't work under these conditions. He's like, well, you could just not work at all.
Yeah. Could we get a little more money here? I don't know. Go punch somebody. Maybe they'll give you some money for that.
Yeah, you got a checkbook? Bring it out, Dick. Put your money where your mouth is, huh?
Why don't you go in the alleyway and make us another $1,000?
Now, do you think there's better movies made for less money
What do you mean?
at this time?
There may have been
I'm sure there is. I mean, do you realize how many movies they were making back then? I mean, just as many as they are now. Like, they're just churning these things out.
There
man.
are, for every movie that we know about from that time period, there have been 20 more that were lost to time.
I mean,
some of them
think
are
about
probably
it.
better than this.
You're talking the 1950s, okay? Drive-ins have become a thing. You need to fill those reels every week. And they didn't even make, there wouldn't be one movie that would be released theatrically in a week. Different areas had different movies.
Huh.
So, you go to a different state, they're showing a completely different movie than they're showing in another state. North Dakota's not getting the same reel as Texas.
And to some degree, that still happens now. You look at the stuff that has limited release only in New York and LA, stuff like that. And that was happening with every movie on every level back then.
But they needed people to go to the drive-ins. So, every night that it's going to be popular, they need a new movie in there. And they're going to be a double, maybe even a triple feature to get people to come in. So you
Especially
can't
if they're
get
clocking
enough.
in at 65 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't get enough movies. So they're just churning them out. 5 days, get us a movie, get us a movie. And this is just for a good 2 decades. That's what the movie industry was the B movies were just, however good the quality is, it kind of just depends how much they put into it. Because you had basically 10 days, make me a movie.
Yeah.
In 1 month, I need this thing playing in jails and some drive-in.
Which is funny to think about, that this movie had a decent amount of time and a generous budget.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
5
compared
days.
to everything else that was going on at the time.
There's only 5 locations of this movie? A day a location, basically. I mean, that's all you needed. At the time of its original release, which we're going to put up in the advertising for this show, there's some amazing poster art for this movie where they did this cartoon sequence that kind of told you what the movie was about and stuff. It's really weird, but it's good stuff.
How cool would it be if someone did that now? Instead of
I
the
think
kind
it
of
would be
poster
good.
art we get a lot nowadays. Well, I mean, it's starting to get better. I think thanks to Mondo and companies like that making poster art cool again. I think it's making people try harder when
Instead
they're
of
doing
just
marketing for
photoshopping
films.
somebody over
for
some sort of explosion
Yeah,
or
for
something.
fuck's sake, for most of our lifetime anyway, the spot that we came in, growing up in the late 80s into the 90s and what have you, it's just you fucking Photoshop faces over things. It's
it's terrible.
It's awful. I mean,
It's bodies over faces.
It's
every Star
you know what
Wars
I'd say?
poster.
It's like everybody has copied the Goodfellas poster ever since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just oh, there we go. Just put the 3 actors' heads on top of some picture.
or being a horror fan in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just
ever since Scream, it's oh, the new Halloween movie's coming out. I can't wait to see what the poster looks like. Oh, it's just the Scream poster.
Oh, they just.
they're just doing that again.
But here you go. This is the most creative promotion I've ever heard of. At the time of this movie's release, there was promotion in the newspapers that said, if you bring a bucket of blood to your local theater's management, you will be given 1 free admission. They don't follow up to say if anybody did it, but I'm sure that I'm sure somebody did.
I'm sure somebody did.
I wonder if that was a police thing, because I remember back in the day there were a couple of instances where, in an attempt to try to catch killers, they had these ideas. I mean, there's a synth musician that goes by the Slasher Film Festival strategy, and I looked that up because it was a weird name for the band, and I read about this, that they would actually, the police's plan was, if we do a festival of slasher films, it's gonna attract the creeps and weirdos that are probably committing these crimes that we can't solve, and so we're gonna get them all in one room. It's gonna be easy pickings. Then I wonder if that's the similar thing.
This just sounds like Dead End Drive-In, Bobby.
Yeah.
And then we lock the door.
We eat popcorn.
But they do that stuff still. They go oh, we got a free vacuum. Just come down to the station and pick it up.
Yeah.
We won a raffle.
Turn in your guns.
And
No
it
question
still
asked.
works.
Yeah.
Oh boy, a free vacuum.
Still works. Well, yeah, now
That'll
it's,
clean up all the dead
Some
skin
guy
in my
walks,
apartment.
Some guy walks in. Hey, I got the free. Oh no, I got fooled again.
Damn it.
now it's probably like Amazon gift cards or something.
But I bet that they were hoping, some guy's going to show up with a bucket of blood and we got him.
Either that or theaters are calling up, they're telling people at the door, no, that's not a real promo. Get out of here. There's just a line down the block of guys with fucking buckets of blood.
Do you have why this movie was called Bucket of Blood? Because I don't really...
Because
there was
at one
no
point he has a
blood.
bucket of blood.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
When he catches all that blood from that dead guy in the ceiling.
That's not a bucket, man. The closest we got was a saucepan of blood, and that just doesn't roll off
Why
the
is it
tongue.
called a bucket of blood? Because it's a salacious name.
Okay.
It gets people in the
It
theater.
gets asses in the seats.
Yeah. Tell me you weren't interested in watching this movie because it's called a bucket of
That's
blood.
basically why I picked it.
Yeah, and you're like, where's that bucket of blood? It's not here.
You're sitting around waiting for your bucket. He's still
Jo-
waiting for
Joke's
that
on
bucket.
you, Hughes. Did you notice if this movie has a trailer or not? Or
I don't know, but why don't you just pretend
okay,
like
I'll
there
just say
is-
it. Guys, before we get into it, let's take a listen to the trailer.
The artist, the poet, the figure model who loves to show it.
Do you suppose he could be physically attracted to her? No, man, he ain't the type. He don't get enough vitamin E.
All these are beat. All these you'll meet in a bucket of blood.
Let us make the scene. Crazy.
Come, enjoy yourself. Where the hilarious enjoy the horrifying in a bucket of blood.
No, you're gonna shoot me! Don't shoot!
Come to the land of living dreams, where realists dream of the unreal.
Walter, you've done something to me. Something deep down inside of my prana. Oh, Walter, I want to be with you. You're creative.
Beatniks at their bawdiest. The creative urge at its most primitive.
I'm deeply moved, and I shall compose a poem.
Love is art. Art is love. It's the weirdest and the wildest.
I don't want to make statues anymore. I want to get married. To you.
So we open on what I rate a guy giving a shitty poem with a really loud saxophone behind him, and I can barely make out the poem.
It is. It's like a rambling homeless man. I didn't write it down. It's available online if you look it up.
The guy at the bus stop, he recites it every day.
Yeah, and he's mentioning stuff like sour cream and graham crackers, and I'm like, this fucking guy is literally reciting his grocery list at me and just throwing in a couple filler words while Busey plays the saxophone.
The way the level of pretension for all these artists, I wouldn't put it past them.
And
That's a real brilliant look into the everyman reading the grocery list. The bourgeoisie and.
And that's the funny thing about this is, as we discussed, Corman his intent is to make fun of these kinds of people, but because of these kinds of people, I can't tell what's the joke.
Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't tell
This
who-
sounds legit.
Who was calling this out? Like, if you're gonna show us all this stuff, like, it looked legitimate to me. Like, this is a beatnik made movie that just sounds ridiculous. And
it's
you have-
supposed to be bad on purpose.
Yeah.
Like he's making fun of them.
And you can easily go into this not knowing that. It's
Yeah.
not overt. It's so he's so subtle about the parody. And we understand so little about beatniks, but like just applying it to hipsters that we've seen now. I know people who write poetry like this, and I hate them.
Like I said, just relate it to everything you know today. It's the same culture. It's never left.
You can
It's
remake
just
this
changed
movie
from one
now
thing to
with the
another.
identical script.
Yeah.
Yes.
They did
Identical.
actually.
95, right?
Yeah, they did make a TV movie version of this. It's the same movie. I can barely hear him over the saxophone, and then Dick Miller. Okay, so this is when Dick comes in, and he really starts to fucking bug me. I don't know about you guys, but I got real annoyed with him throughout this movie because he's fucking terrible.
He's
just
a
a-
real Willard.
Yeah, he's a bumbler. He's just,
okay. So what does he do?
He's a waiter. Cleans
No,
up.
no, he's a busboy, right?
Busboy, whatever. No, he delivers drinks
Although
too. He's
some
a
people
waiter.
are ordering drinks from him, but then everybody calls him the busboy. But what is he doing here in this scene? He's not fucking working. He's just kind of wandering around like he's like.
That's the case in every scene.
That's a real nice poem you got there, Mr. So-and-so.
Yeah, he's really into whatever this poet is saying.
He's like standing right next to the stage like he's almost a part of the show, And then he's like, guess I'll get one cup. And he just slowly. And while people are trying to listen to the poetry, I mean, not that anybody gives a shit. He's just kind of like walking at a snail's pace around, just like kind of wandering. I'm like, this is literally the worst fucking employee ever.
Honestly, half of my coworkers are basically him. I'm used to this. So it didn't really give me pause. I'm like, yeah, that's how like a lot of people are at their jobs.
Yeah,
it's
he
like
is.
No one gives a shit. Everyone's just half-assed it.
But at the same time, I don't get any sympathy for him because immediately when the boss starts yelling at him, I'm like, yeah. Because at one point he's like, hey, you know what? Table 3 is full with fucking coffees. You ever seen? I mean, there's like 15 espressos sitting on that fucking table. Let's go, Dick. Let's go. So basically, he walks around. He's a shitty busboy. The credits continue to roll as people try and listen to this shitty poetry.
But it just keeps going.
It was
like I have in my notes, like, is this the whole movie?
But it's like, what's worse? You have to listen. Like, I say later, I would never come back to this fucking club if I went there once. Because what's worse? You listen to the shitty poetry, or you have Dick Miller walking over to your table being like, "Yeah, what you doing over here?" It's like, can you, what the fuck, get my fucking drink cup and get out of here, man. I'm trying to enjoy my night. Like, I don't need a stranger talking to me.
Like I used to attend this jazz club in Fullerton, California called Steamers. It was a cool place, pretty chill, you know, people, you know, jazz trios and whatnot playing. It's a very laid back atmosphere. And if there was a dude coming by periodically, you're like, oh, what do you got there?
Hey, what you doing, Mr. Trippett? What you doing?
These guys sure are good. Hey, could you get? I'm watching this. Can you go? Can you please?
What's that? Sorry. You can't see the show? What you working on? And you're just like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Mike really hates people who serve food if they talk to you.
I'm like Dolomite. I was fucking pissed.
Yeah. You're loving and supportive of everybody but people in the service industry.
You know you agree with me. You're gonna give me shit. But if some guy was wandering around slowly while you're trying to watch a show, like if you're at fucking medieval times and some guy's like going in front of you while the fucking joust is going on,
huh?
Yeah, hey, what do you think you're gonna win tonight, huh? And you're just like, yeah, I'm sorry, can you get me another fucking chicken or something? Let's go here.
You probably get mad at the supermarket clerk that sits there and talks to you while they're ringing up their...
I do actually get annoyed by that. I give him the small chat, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to go home.
All right, don't ever talk to fucking Mike outside of this. He doesn't want to
this
hear
nice
from
guy
you.
facade.
I'm sorry, does anybody really like when you're talked to by a stranger someplace? Like when you're trying to buy something?
It depends. I've definitely been in those positions where I don't want anyone talking to me.
I'm not an unfriendly person. I'll talk to somebody, say hey, and then walk out.
Hughes will hug strangers.
Yeah.
You know, Hughes is hiding this, by the way, because he is the most intolerant person alive when it comes to people bugging him, and he's pretending like he's so friendly. If some guy talked to Hughes at the grocery store, I bet you he gets in the car and he's like, fuck.
But not until he gets in the
not
car.
Until
he's totally cool, but then he has to like bite his steering wheel before he drives away.
I am super friendly in person, and when I go to the store, I'm all smiles and everything, and when I get out, I'm like, oh, thank God. I just want to get home and work on the podcast.
Like, look, I got editing to do. I can't.
Yeah. So anyways, Dick's walking around bugging everybody. He's walking around like a fucking idiot, slowly, and just kind of like knocking cups around and doing whatever he's doing. And then he goes over to Carla. Well, at this point, we just think it's a random lady.
Yeah, it's just some lady that's drawing.
He goes over to her table and he's like, "Yeah, what you doing? What you working on? What's your picture?"
And at this point, she has the right to mace him.
Yeah, because he gets real close. By the way, he's like right behind her, like getting in on the shoulder. And he's like, "What you drawing there?" And it's like almost fucking touching her hand while she's trying to fill somebody in. And she's like, oh God, it's just a picture. And then the boss finally notices this, right? He's like, hey,
get to work.
Dick, do I pay you to look at pictures, huh? There's a lot of empty cups all over the place. And I'm like, thank you.
Finally a goddamn professional.
And I gotta say, and eventually the woman who replaces him in this, a million times better. I mean, she's always, every time you see her in the background, she's picking up cups, you know, she's taking orders and stuff. I'm like, see, now there you go.
See, Mike filled out a comment card while he was watching this. He's like, where do I mail this? I really need to make sure she gets a raise.
Okay, and this is weird because like he tells him to go back to work, and then Carla's like, "You shouldn't be so rough on him," to the boss guy, right?
Yeah, be nice to him.
And I was like, "Well, he should get those fucking cups. I mean, that is what he's paying. That's what he's paying."
Hey, don't be mean to this guy who's not doing his job.
Yeah, like, but seriously though, he should go get those cups.
What's the rush, man?
Like they're stacking up 3 at a time, man. They're playing fucking stack them up on these tables. Like they got so many goddamn espresso cups piling up.
This movie needs to be a bucket of cups right now. Can you please take that to the kitchen?
Yeah, there you go. You need the boss to be a little more. Yeah. Movie should be called Bucket of Cups. Am I right? okay, you know, you're giving me a lot of shit for this, but I write my notes, Dolomite wouldn't stand for this shit.
No, he would not.
And I was like, I imagine Dolomite in this beatnik club. Obviously, he's going to give a poem. It's going to be better than anything else you've heard. And also, he's going to be like, hey, by the way, why don't you go pick up some fucking cups? Am I right? This guy over here.
Yeah. And by the way, Walter, can you tell that gentleman in the corner to take off his hat?
The poem ends, then that's when
Mercifully.
the credits are done.
Yeah, and the boss is talking to Carla. Okay, so apparently, like, this is where I thought it was really creepy because Carla says you shouldn't be so mean to him. And then he, like, pats her on the head. And I was like, is that just a customer? Or, because this is really fucking
We
weird.
need context, man. This is...
Okay, it gets weirder because apparently, like, okay, so the boss and Carla hang out all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he calls her honey.
Okay, you think they're a couple, right? But then at one point, Dick says to her, he goes like, oh, ever since you started working at the club, I'm like, well, what does she do? She's a worse employee than him. Is she just hired to sit at tables and talk to people?
She's a seat filler.
Yeah.
They hire an attractive woman to come sit at one of the tables.
She's the plant.
Yeah.
They're like, we need real artists in here. Can you just pretend you're painting this picture?
It's just like over the weekend I went to a timeshare presentation down in Escondido, and it is very clear that some of the people there are plants. Like the enthusiastic middle-aged couple is just like, this sounds like the greatest deal. And like,
like there's a guy who just, honey, did you hear that? Huh, we can totally afford that.
we can live a life of luxury. Any place we want to go.
That's
$200 a month.
Yeah,
That's
and
brilliant.
it's so like, you know, it's you see, my wife is in sales, so she knows the tricks. I'm the son of a con artist. I know the tricks.
I just love that they
Hope
like.
you're listening, Dad.
Yeah, I just love that they're like, oh, there's only so many weekends, and this couple right here that's been talking the whole time, they're gonna take them off. You don't act now.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's so like, but the point is, it makes me think about that in every other scenario, and I'm betting that's what this guy's doing in the club too. He's like, you sit here and act like you're really liking this asshole's poem.
Yeah, because nobody likes it.
No.
We've had multiple complaints, but if somebody claps, maybe they'll all think, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not aware, man.
Stay woke.
Okay, then, all of a sudden, we follow this guy who's wearing a cowboy hat, okay? Now, he does not fit in to this club. It's a fucking, again...
He's wearing like a terry cloth bathrobe with a cowboy hat?
Yeah, like a cowboy hat with like a little, like a playing card.
And you know what?
In the side of it, like a press badge.
Just like our bearded poet on the stage, I saw this guy this week too.
You saw the undercover?
Undercover cowboy hat
Undercover
cop?
cowboy hat cop. I'm pretty sure I saw that guy too.
You obviously know that this guy is not, like, he doesn't belong there. He sticks out a fucking mile away. It's like over at the police station, like, I don't know, how's he gonna fit in with them beatniks? I know, give him a cowboy hat. You know, I think they kind of like that. It's like ironic, you know? Like,
big on irony.
You know, 50 years from now, they'll call it hipster. We go back inside, right? And the poet is, okay, so the shitty poet is fishing for compliments about a shitty poem. That's what I write, because he walks around, he's like, did you hear my poem, everybody? And they're like, oh, it was real great.
No, the line was, everyone listened to my poem, but I don't think they heard it.
yeah, this is a real, like, I'll check it out scenario. Like, he's like, yeah, I don't think anybody heard it. Am I right, guys? Huh?
And you know what? I understand that, man. Like, I think a lot of people listen to our podcast, but nobody really hears it.
Shut up.
What? You're just not aware, Hughes.
Okay, so you say nobody heard it, right? But Dick Miller, again, not working, comes up and he's like, no, I heard the poem. It's real great, you know?
And he just starts reciting it to him. And
then, okay, I hated this. This was the most fucking hipster thing I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Is after he's done reciting it, the poet says, I don't remember any of it, because I refuse to say anything twice. Repetition is dead. And I write...
Death.
I'm just like, fuck you, guy. That is the most asshole fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yes. Fuck you, cricket.
So that bugged you guys as well?
Mm-hmm.
It
takes a couple of days for it to die. And then another one will come up in a week or two. Like, they just, like, get
Oh,
through
you're
the
talking
door.
about the cricket?
Yeah.
No, he's talking about hipsters.
I was talking about the hipster.
They die in a couple of weeks and a new one takes its
I'm
place.
like, what is Hughes talking about? Is he making a statue over here?
Thank you both for coming.
He'd like us to model after this?
Yeah, 2 dragons.
So basically, we get into this, like, Dick Miller won't leave people alone, and he's just talking about, he goes on, somebody's like, the Army tried to draft me, but I couldn't pass the test. And this is right, Jesus Christ, man. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, Dick. Maybe a rope's in order. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
There's when the other people there start talking about Walter. There's a line I wrote down that I liked was Walter has a clear mind. One day something will enter it, feel lonely, and leave again.
yeah. I'm just like,
That's some Groucho shit.
Dick Miller is the most sad sack son of a bitch in this movie. Like, I don't feel bad for him at all. He's such a sad sack.
Like he really, like he put the final word on it this early. Like no one else should ever try to play a sad sack because he nailed it so hard. You're just like, man, fuck off, dude.
It's like a guy you'd feel sorry for, but you still wouldn't want to be friends with.
Yeah.
You'd be like, yeah,
Maybe you'll come to my show. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Oh, yeah, I'll check it out, man. And he's always telling you bad stories you couldn't give a shit about. You're like, oh, here he comes again. Okay, I love this. So there's these old people sitting at a table. They're sitting there with what I call the quote artists.
Right.
Which are these two guys, which are like the fucking Muppets. The guy sitting in the balcony.
These guys are great. Hipster Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
I couldn't tell if they were like supposed to be the audience, and they always were making fun of all of the hipsters. They were just getting
but
high.
they're like the most hipster beatnik people of all. Were they wearing like Civil War hats?
One guy was. One guy's wearing like a Union General's hat.
He's wearing a fucking Union hat. It would have been great if the other guy was wearing a Confederate hat, you know?
That's the one thing that would have taken Sattler and Waldorf to the next level on the Muppet Show, is if one was a Union soldier and one was Confederate. See, they worked it out. It's a positive message.
So this is great. They are like conning these old people. They're like, we want to meet real artists. And they're like, oh yeah, well just pay us. We'll show you some real artists, lady. It's like, did they not realize that they're in the coffee shop already? Like this is like the con that you'd say it out in the street. They're like, oh honey, go talk to them. Those look like two degenerates that hang out at one of them coffee shops. Bring them over here. Hey, can you show us where the artists hang out? Yeah, sure, lady. Give me $50. I'll bring you down to the coffee shop. You know,
hop in my van. I'll take you to the stars' homes.
But the con doesn't work if they're already here.
Right.
Because they're like, can we see some real artists? It's like, you just heard shitty poetry. What else do you want?
No, they want real artists. That's them being critical. Can you said you were going to show us the real ones?
I was like, I wrote in my thing, it doesn't get more pretentious than this. Like, you've hit the top, lady.
Yeah.
This is the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the artists. You know what I mean? And then, of course, Dick comes up and ruins everybody's night. He seriously walks over. He's like, well, how you doing over at this table, huh?
Well, wasn't he like trying to sell himself as some kind of artist or poet?
And that's kind of a running thing here at this place too, because everyone here is here because they love the arts. Yeah, like they're so supportive. He's like, I make art too, and they're like, "Fuck you, Walter."
Yeah, they're like,
shit on
him.
They're like, "Go die."
I swear to God, they're like, "I'm sorry, are you like a waiter or what? What do you do?" Because why are you here? And he walks over with this tray. He's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm selling art too now. I'm a real artist.
Not you, Walter. We're here for everyone's art but yours, pal.
Walter, get the fuck out of here, man. Then he just says, he's like, oh, I'm working on something real big. I'll show you real soon. And they're like, yeah,
I think it's time to start going to a different coffee house.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at one point I wrote, I can't imagine the fucking Yelp reviews. Just one star after the next.
Okay, speaking of that, it's called the Yellow Door is the name of this coffee shop.
Uh-huh.
It's black and white. Why put a color into this? What? Like, it kind of upset me.
Like, I like there's like Hughes in a black and white movie. They should never reference a color ever. Like, there's like, it's that girl in the red dress, and then Hughes would get all pissed off, like, where?
What girl?
And why the fuck do the Marx Brothers keep calling Harpo a redhead? His hair's gray.
Yep.
This is some bullshit.
They should just start referring to everything in grayscale. They should.
Or just choose not to use it. Like,
we were trying to imply that the world was gray back then.
Yeah.
Why isn't this called the gray door?
Yeah, why did they call it the light gray door?
It's called the shop.
The shop?
The shop.
The little shop.
They did.
Yeah, and then they just added
6 days later.
Of whores.
That was after Walter.
If this place was called The Shop, and then they were just like, this is perfect, because then we could just add of horrors.
You gotta work smart, not hard.
Yeah, there you go.
And there's no color reference, and we're good.
Okay, so yeah, back in 1959, when the world was in black and white, So then basically the boss comes up and ends this. Thank God he tells Dick to get back to work, right? This is what I
boss, though, is an enabler.
He is an enabler.
As we continue through the movie, it's like, this guy needs to stop things.
Yeah.
And he never will.
At this point, I'm kind of on his side because I'm like, well, this guy, I mean, he's obviously doing Dick a favor by hiring him.
Yeah,
Because he's like, this is seriously the worst busboy you can imagine. And he's like, he felt sorry for him or
friends
something.
with his father or something?
Because, he's not a bad guy until, like, later. Because he did give him a chance.
Yeah.
Anybody else would be like, all right, you got to fight. Like, with all the amount of complaints, the suggestion box is fucking filled with, can you please get a different busboy? There's so many goddamn cups on tables, I can't find anywhere to sit.
At this point, the customers are putting their empties on the chairs.
At least once a night, Dick's dropping that tray. Like, at least once a night, like, all the fucking espresso cups are broken on the ground.
I did it again, Leonard.
Oh, gee, Mr. Leonard, I did it again. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay, Walter.
Yeah, Leonard's getting close to telling him about the rabbits.
It's funny you wrote that because I wrote at some point, I'm like, this is just fucking Lenny. Like, if Gary Sinise wasn't around, And so I wrote down, like, at this point, I was like, I imagine somebody being like, you want to go to that beatnik coffee shop, Mike? And me responding with, you mean the one with the really loud saxophone and the shitty busboy who keeps reciting poetry to me? No thanks. I'll never go again. And
One star.
Yeah, I wrote, imagine the fucking Yelp reviews.
Also, why is this place called the Yellow Door?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, it's light gray. I don't get it.
It's as gray as my skin. I don't know why they're calling it yellow. What even is yellow?
You just walk in and the whole room's gray. You're like, whoa.
Dude, I would go to that bar. If there was like a Pleasantville cafe, like everything's grayscale, I would love the shit out of that.
So then Dick Miller walks home, right? And he stops to creep. Okay, this is our protagonist, right? We're supposed to feel sympathy for him. No, he just stands there and goes like, oh, gee, what's happening in that car? And he's sitting there watching people make out in a convertible like a fucking creep.
And the guy notices that he's being watched.
He's like, can you get the fuck out of here? And he's just like, oh, gee, sorry, sir. I was just taking me a look-see. Getting a little
can you get these empties out of my car, please? Can you take these somewhere?
Hey, kid.
I got these empty cans here.
I thought he meant empty condoms.
Aw.
Kid, you going by the trash?
I've been trying to flick them. They don't make it.
So Dick goes to his apartment, right? And then this is even... So, like, then his landlady bugs him, right? When he walks in, she's like a real busybody. And I'm just like, get a little fucking taste of your own medicine, Dick. How's it feel when somebody won't leave you the fuck alone, huh?
You go, landlady. Give it back to him tenfold.
Because she's like, oh, if you were my boy, I'd keep you well-fed and all this stuff. And she says something like, come in and let me make you a bowl of soup. It won't take but a minute. And then she says something like, have you seen your cat?
No, it's her cat.
Oh, her cat? Tell him I got a nice big piece of halibut for him. I'm like,
if you see Frankie.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me that she would offer the cat a piece of halibut and him like, I think
soup.
I got a fucking can of Campbell's in the house.
Making him a top ramen. Reheating the leftovers from lunch.
So he's like, no, I gotta get in my apartment because I, quote, got important things to do. And I'm like, oh no. Does he have a new like hair doll he's got to build or some shit?
It's Walter and the real girl. He's gonna get her a job at that coffee shop.
Yeah. And then Dick goes inside, right, and he makes himself a little can of soup or something. Then he pulls out this big block of clay, and then he gets all creepy. This gets very creepy.
It was super creepy.
Yeah, he's like really getting his fingers in that clay, and he starts muttering to himself.
But Bobby, what does he do before he gets that clay? He fucking grabs a picture, a framed picture, by the way.
That's right.
Of who? It's Carla.
Is it Carla?
He has a fucking framed picture of Carla, for the lady from the coffee shop, in his goddamn house, which, by the way, for his sake, you better hope she never fucking comes over, man, because she comes over to your place and she's like, first of all, where'd you get this picture of me?
Yeah.
It's like a goddamn studio portrait of her, right? And he framed it and he keeps it on like right by his door. And then he puts it on the table and he's like, I'm going to do it for you, Carla. And he starts like putting his fucking fingers in the clay and stuff.
He'll be doing push-ups.
And he's like telling the clay to become whatever he's trying to mold.
Yeah, he recites this thing to himself that a rock is a rock or it's a statue. A noise is a noise or it's a song. And that is already a better poem than we opened the movie with.
But then he just sits there and he's like, be a nose, damn ya, be a nose.
Be a nose.
It's like, there are classes. Like I'm sure the local Y has some sort of art class,
yeah,
Walter.
but the people he's looking to impress are only going to respect him if he's self-taught.
Yeah.
And so then he
You
gets
take
all
a class
mad.
and you are done.
He gets all mad, and then like this cat is fucking screeching. The soup's boiling over, and he's such a sad sack. He hits himself in the head with a lamp.
Oh, you've really done it again, Walter.
The cat's stuck in the wall, and it's just like, rah, rah, and he's like, oh, well, come here, Charlie. I'll get you out of the wall. What's his way of getting it out of the wall?
Well, he's going to cut it out of the wall. It's a smart thing. And he's like, all right, Frankie, hold on, I'm coming. And then he jams a knife in the wall to start cutting away the spackle. And
Again,
we hear a...
We got a real Lenny on our hands.
Oh, yeah.
We got a real of mice and men scenario here. Because he takes like a fucking butcher knife, which I honestly don't think he should have that in the house.
No.
Like, he shouldn't have any sharp objects.
He shouldn't be allowed to be left alone.
And like, by the way, do you see how the wall's not given?
Yeah,
like
that knife loses that fight.
The knife's all bowing like crazy, and then he finally gets it in, and the cat stops. Well, it screeches once really loud. I
Yeah,
think.
there's the
and then
reactionary, and then it cuts real quick.
And then he's like, oh, no, not again. And then he somehow gets in the wall real easy now.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a revealing mistake. Like, he starts to hit the wall, and you can see the perforation that they've made. So he can pull the big thing out of it. And he reaches inside the wall to see what has happened, and he pulls out a taxidermied cat that's probably twice the size that you would expect that cat to be.
Yeah, it was like rigor mortis has set in quick. So this is where I'd like to say I have a story about a dead cat.
Oh, Lord.
That is, it's sad, but it's also funny.
It was an old cat that lived a full life.
So I had this really old cat when I was a kid. I mean, really old. He got so old that he used to just sit in the sun, and like you'd go over to pet him, and all his hair would just fall out on your hand. You're like, oh, okay, Freddie, I'm sorry. He also had a giant tumor on his head.
Oh my God.
He lived to be like 20. Mm-hmm. And you remember, Hughes, that cat was old as hell. He was waiting to die. Like, he would just sit by the window every day hoping
for that sweet release.
Yeah, that maybe this day will be my last.
Is this the one?
So one day I go before, this is like I'm in elementary school, and I go, no, I was like in high school.
High school?
Yeah, I was in high school because I knew Hughes, because one day he just showed up to school and then he just walked over and was my friend.
Like he got assigned to you.
I got in that awkward conversation. Just started talking to him like, "Hey, so you into skateboarding?"
And Hughes always used to wear weird hats to school. Like
you were the crazy hat kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, they weren't crazy. They were like dad hats.
They were all snapbacks.
Yeah. So I had the same thing when I first came to California. I walked in with a
please don't tell me you had a backwards hat. And you're like, this is what it's like.
I did actually. You know that kid from Recess in the green jacket and the backwards hat? I was that kid.
I was going to say,
with
you're
the
like,
jacket and the hat.
This is like
and
the
it wasn't
movie,
because of Recess. I'm older than that.
You're like the kid in the movie Airborne. Like, you moved here and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to be cool.
Man, it was... Yeah, I had this hat that I'd found. And this would work today with certain crowds. It was this bright primary red snapback, and on the front it said, "Don't worry, I'll fix it," and had like a cartoon dad getting electrocuted by a television.
So you're a Tool Time hat?
This is pre.
You are like the embodiment of Poochie.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you just showed up to school like, hey.
They're like, who's this asshole?
Did you have like a flannel tied around your waist?
Sometimes. Well, the thing is, I was coming from out of state, and I was like, this is an opportunity to reinvent myself. You know?
Oh, no.
Back home in Pennsylvania, I was this kid named Robbie. And, hair was brushed all nice every day, and I was trying to be, all proper and whatnot. And I was like, no. Now I'm moving to Southern California. It's all boardwalks and bikini tops, baby. And so I threw on my backwards hat and an X-Men t-shirt, and now I wasn't Robbie anymore. Now I was Bobby, and I was the coolest kid at this school. And that experiment didn't quite work. Well, needless to say, Poochie died on the way back to his home planet.
One day it ended. It was like, nope.
I was like, I don't know. I might have to start this one over.
I came from LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, to Orange County, to Southern Orange County, with the affluent people that live here.
Oh boy.
Where my old school, if your parents are still together, you were the cool kid. To where this one is, if you didn't have a Mercedes or some giant truck, you were worthless. It was very weird.
This was the birth of Hollywood Hughes.
Yeah, Hollywood Hughes. So, okay, the dead cat, right? One day I go in the garage to get some clothes for school, right? Like get a shirt. The cat's laying on the garage floor, and I'm just like, hey, Freddie. Oh, no. Freddie is no longer with us, right? And
Hold on, let me set that up. Do-do-do. Do-do-do.
So he's stuck on the floor, okay? Like he's laying on the floor, and we're like, well, we gotta move him. And so I tell my brother, I'm like, okay, I'll get you hold the trash bag, I'll get him up, right?
Did you and your brother say a few words first?
Well, yeah, my brother was really young, so he was crying.
Of course.
And I was just like, it's okay, Pete, it's okay. So we try to get him off the floor, and he's stuck. Like he's stuck because the death has stuck him to the floor for some reason. So I get a shovel, and I peel him off the floor. Now, here's the funny part.
Here's where it gets charming as fuck.
I go to put it in the trash bag, and my brother's crying so much he moves while it goes to put it in the trash bag, and the cat falls onto the garage floor, and like a manhole cover just goes ding 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 ding.
Oh my god!
And even though my brother's crying, he just started laughing hysterically because I've never seen anything funnier in my life.
Oh my god!
So there you go. Poor Freddie. We'll always remember you. He's been cremated, and he now lives on my dad's dresser. So.
I was about to ask how much that art piece got you.
So basically, Dick takes this dead cat, right? He goes to sleep, right? And then he wakes up in the morning, and then he looks at his dead cat, and then he looks at the clay on the table, and he's like, oh, the mind has started working. The wheels have turned. I can put 2 and 2 together. And then we go to the yellow door in the day, right? And so Dick shows up for work and Carla's there, and the boss are there. And he brings the cat, right? Because he goes, oh, I got something to show you. And he like unwraps this fucking... Well, at first the boss is like, oh, Walter, bring the trash to the trash can. Don't bring it inside. We know you're still learning, but come on now. This is a simple one. And he's like, no, I brought you something. Look at me. I'm a real artist.
Like, oh, for God's sake.
And he unveils this statue of basically he took the dead cat with the knife still in it and just put clay over it. And he's like, don't you think it's great? And then they're just like, Carla's just like, oh my God, you're a real artist. And the boss is like, yeah, this is pretty good, Walter. This is great. Now, let me ask you guys, is this great?
Just giving them the benefit of doubt operating under the assumption that this was just molded out of clay. The likeness is very well done. It's still chilling. It's that the simple kind of weird dude who works there would mold a cat with a knife jammed in it.
Yeah,
you're fired.
Yeah, the guy who like a lot of times the boss has to say you have to stop telling customers they have pretty hair.
Yeah,
like you need to stop that, Walter. You also need to stop touching them.
What shampoo do you use?
He shows up with a sculpture of a cat with a knife in it, and they're like, oh yeah, this is great, man. But this is my favorite part is the boss says, yeah, you're a real artist. Now go in the back and scrub down those garbage cans, eh?
I love him.
So we go, it's night now, and Dick keeps walking around asking, okay, because the boss says, I'll put the cat in there. I'll put your fucking stupid cat in the place, and if somebody pays me, I'll give you 50% of it. So that night, Dick's walking around asking people if they like his cat. He's bugging everybody.
So fucking annoying.
He's just walking around. He's like, you see my cat? You see my cat? They're like, Jesus Christ.
And you just know this is not the first night he's done that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, have you seen my cat?
And they're like,
can I get an espresso?
The complaints this night are like, I liked him better when he was just the fucking busboy. Yeah. Like, it was bad enough, but now he's a fucking artist. He never shuts the fuck up. Can you fire this guy? I'm going to a new coffee shop next week. Like,
this is like a person that like posts something to Instagram and then texts you like, hey, will you like my Instagram picture?
Oh, yeah.
So then, okay, basically the poet, Carla, and this table, they're like, hey, we like your cat. And he's like, oh, boy. And it's like, man, did you just open a can of fucking worms, guys?
What have you done?
And then the poet, this is insane. He gets up and he goes, hello, everybody. I would like to make an announcement.
Oh, have you got this written down? Yeah, Maxwell, our poet laureate, gets up and he tells everybody that he compliments the cat and how nice it is. Everyone, he says, that master sculptor is in our midst. It is none other than Walter Paisley, our very own busboy, whose hands of genius have been carrying away the cups of your frustration. Bring me an espresso, Walter.
Yeah, I do like that. Walter, an espresso. Huh? Let's go. Snap, snap.
You expect in the background, you're supposed to scrub those trash cans.
Everyone comes up and gives him a hug. Like everybody, they start hugging him and touching him. They're like, "You're great, Walter."
He's accepted now. He's a part of the in crowd.
But I just write,
he's King Fuck now.
I go, I mean, it's not good. Like it's a shitty.
It's just art, man.
Like
you can't say.
But what I'm saying is there is
bad.
no art to it. It's literally just a cat with a knife in it, and they're just like, "What do you call it?" He's like, "Dead cat."
Or I thought it was like murdered cat or something.
No, it's just dead cat.
No,
what do you call it? It's dead cat.
And by the way, he doesn't even really deny that it is what it is.
No.
Because at one point the boss is like, "Walter, why don't you go make some more?" And he's like, "Oh, well, gee, what am I gonna make? I only have one cat."
Yeah, it's
and like the boss is almost like, "Oh, I think I know what's going on."
somewhat to Walter's credit. He's admitting his crimes. It's just like, that's a dead cat in there.
Yeah, I'm like, if somebody asked him, at one point I was asking, like, if anybody actually comes up to him and goes, "What's your inspiration?" He'll tell you the whole story. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I don't think he thought any of this was wrong that he did.
No, I think he's like, "Oh, that's how you be an artist."
And really, what's a taxidermist? But someone who takes a dead animal and turns it into art.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he's not doing much different.
Yeah,
You know, put a little clay on it.
Leatherface made lamps. Apparently, apparently he was an artist too.
So then basically,
This is where the club owner kicks him out because he's causing a scene. He tells him to go home because people don't buy coffee when they're applauding.
yeah, and he's like, just go make another cat, Walter. Thank you. You're doing great. And then before he leaves, some lady comes up to him, right?
Is that Naola?
Naola, and gets very close to him and starts going like, Walter, I want to fuck you. I want your artist dick inside me.
And we've all known people like that. Like, you made a dead cat.
I want you to paint me, Walter.
Yeah, and that is that fish is jumping in the boat.
And then she's just like, all right, Walter, if you're not gonna let me, if you're not gonna take me home and stick your artist paintbrush inside me, let me at least give you something. And she like gives him this vial. And then, as I write, hotshot sweater guy. Okay. So, this guy, again, who just like the cowboy hat man, does not fit into the yellow door. Hotshot sweater man comes in, and he just kind of has like the most like Johnny Everyman smile. He's just like, hey, that's me. Boy, howdy, I was in the army, fought them krauts. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
He's a future senator, this guy.
Absolutely.
So, Johnny Baseball Hotshot Sweater Man,
as he is credited,
follows Dick home, okay? And then when Dick gets home, he pulls out that vial and he smells it, and he like puts it on the table. He's like, oh boy, howdy, look at me. I'm so famous now, and I bet Carla's gonna want to fuck me. And he's going on and on, talking to himself. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's Hotshot Sweater Man Johnny Baseball. And Dick's like, oh, why don't you come on in? And then he's like, hey, hey, Dick, who's your supplier? And he's like, takes this vial and he's looking at it and he's like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, this is H. Where'd you get the H? Where'd you get the H? And he's like, what are you talking about? I mean, it's obviously this guy doesn't know what he has.
he has no idea what horse is.
Yeah, he's like, tell me the horse. Let me see them track lines. Where's the H?
He's like, no, it was a cat.
Who's the connection? This goes all the way to the top. I'm telling you, I'm getting a medal of recommendation for this one. And then, like, basically, he's all, well, I got to arrest you. You're going downtown. And he even says, this is the fucking worst thing, is because the cops saw the lady give him the drugs. Okay? Yeah. And he says, I don't know what it is. She just gave it to me. And he's like, hey, I'm going to work downtown. And he pulls out the fucking gun. And it's like, I guess in 59, you could just shoot a gun.
Oh, you can now, too.
Yeah.
Man, everything about this movie still works now.
He pulls out his gun, and he's pointing it at him. He's like, Walter, we got to go downtown. And he's like, you're going to shoot me. You're going to shoot me.
And, in complete self-defense, that would get him off in a court trial.
Yeah, because he did have a gun pulled on him.
Yeah, he's fearing for his life, and in desperation, he grabs a frying pan, and he swings it down.
And he has now killed Hotshot Johnny Baseball.
Just splits his head open.
Fastball right to the skull, you know? And it is nice that the frying pan is covered in blood, but Hughes didn't know because it's not in a color, so he thought maybe it was chocolate syrup. He wasn't sure, so...
It was chocolate syrup as far as I'm concerned. There was no blood.
Same thing Hitchcock did in Psycho. We understand.
People used to bleed gravy, you know. Just just bleed gray. So then the landlady hears it and she comes inside and she starts looking around and I'm like, just tell her to get the fuck out. It's your landlady. It's like, I rent this place, it's my property. Get the fuck out of my home. But she's just like, oh, Walter, it's all dirty in here and everything. It's like, this is none of your business. But
Is this where he hid the body up in the...
Yeah, somehow he got this giant person
in
up in the...
very quick amount of time. He throws Johnny Baseball, hotshot sweater guy up into...
Yeah, like Walter's throwing fast. But like, he's got a fucking perfect spiral. He got this guy in the roof. Yeah. Like, where is he?
He's above the kitchen sink.
He's in like a cabinet?
Yeah, somewhere.
And then the hand drops down, and like Walter basically gets her out, and then he's dripping blood everywhere.
And he throws a pan under there to catch the blood while he starts scrubbing from the initial attack. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give this movie some credit. The sound and the image of the blood dripping into the pan is really unsettling.
Right.
Like, that was super effective.
Yeah, and then Walter's just like, oh, I'm gonna do something about it, and then he basically comes up with the idea he's gonna use that clay. And he's going to make another cat.
He's been inspired.
Yeah. So then we go to a phone booth and we see Cowboy Hat Man making a call. And this is when you find out like he's a cop. But he's like, I don't see Hot Shot Boy. I don't see Johnny Baseball anymore. He just left 5 minutes ago, by the way. But I haven't seen him all night. Put out a call. And they're like, all right. So then we go to the coffee shop, right? And this is when the boss looks at the cat statue and he picks it up. He drops it. And then he sees hair, so he realizes it's a real cat, and he's kind of like sickened by it.
And by the way, there's another performer playing at the coffee shop at this point, and he's playing the guitar. That song sounds so much like Riding Free from Psychomania. I thought we were actually getting to witness Chopped Meat at one of his gigs.
Oh, this is Chopped Meat's father.
This is Mr. Chopped Meat.
So it was an old family song.
Yeah, this is okay.
From the Frog.
Someone he used to sing to him.
So the boss realizes that he's a fraud. So he knows the secret now, which he kind of suspected all along. So then we go, okay, so this is when that guy's singing that song.
And the song about a murderer, right?
Yeah, he's like, "Go murderer, go down." It's a good song.
It's kind of cool.
It's catchy. And then the boss tells Dick to go sit down with these two artists that tried to con those old people out of money, right? The Union soldier. And then the boss is like, "Hey, somebody wanted to pay $100 for your sculpture," and I thought he was kidding because we didn't see this part, but then we learned it was real.
Yeah,
it was very odd because I thought it was like all part of his ruse to catch Walter or something.
Yeah.
But then basically they're like telling him they're telling the boss not to be mean to him and stuff. It gets a little confusing right here.
Yeah, but now that he sees that he can actually make money from this is when he chooses to protect Walter from this.
Yeah, his
also
morals get a little tricky at this point. He's fighting with himself about it because he's got dollars in his eyes.
But he also kind of like berates him because he gets in his face and he's like, "What's next? A dog, a bird, a few dozen cockroaches from your room?"
Yeah, the delivery of that is so
it's
great.
Very good. And then Dick's like, "Hey, you know what? I got a new piece I'm working on, everybody. It's called Murdered Man."
And that freaks out the club owner.
Leonard starts to feel ill.
He's like, "Oh no, the rabbits." Oh no.
What have you done?
And so then the boss he like coughs and he has this reaction like he definitely noticed what's going on. The quote artists complain about the food. And this is when they're like, "Yo, there's this great place down the street with wheat germ bagels." And I just read, "Oh, those hipsters." Their
quinoa and their wheat germ.
They fucking hate the taste of food.
So then basically, we do see this part, like, so the boss gets all like sick to his stomach and he goes over to the register and he's like, well, he's gonna call the police.
Cops, yeah.
But then some chubby man comes up and he's like, "I like that cat statue. I'll give you 100.
This dude comes up, Nicely Johnson shows up from Guys and Dolls.
He's like, "I'll give you 100. And he's like, "I can't talk right now. 200. He's like, I'm 3, 4, 5.
I'm on the phone right now. Did you say 5?
And he's like, "Yeah, I'll give you $500. And then the boss is like, "All right, well, I can do this. Walter can kill whatever he wants as long as there's money involved." He's all excited about it now.
It's also during this moment that I noticed that his boss looks remarkably like the lead singer of Rammstein.
And it's also at this moment that the boss is going to cheat Walter out of money, right?
Yeah. So because the guy's going to give him $500 for it.
Yeah.
Because they go, okay, so Dick's place, right? The boss and Carla come over to see Dick's new statue. And that's when he gives them the $50 later in the scene and says, like, "Oh, I sold your statue." It's Hotshot Sweater Man covered in clay.
With a big old cleave in the top of his head.
Yeah. But this is one thing is like, it's not exactly him. And there is, like, Walter did do work on the eyes and other stuff.
Because, like, you're not going to hold the expression.
Exactly. So I'm like, well, he does know how to do something.
So you're starting to come around on this guy, Mike. You're like, yeah, this guy's pretty talented, actually.
But it was like, no, by the way, this statue looks like shit. It looks like a fucking kindergartner made this thing.
You know, it's better.
Except for the face.
It's better than I could do.
Oh, definitely better than I could do, but still, I ain't no artist.
Let's put it up next to the Ninja Turtle I made in the 8th grade that started to crack in the kiln.
Carla goes up and she's like, it's a masterpiece. I've never seen anything like it before, and I hope I never do again. Which was a great line. And then the boss basically like passes out on the couch because he knows what's up.
Yeah,
he's like, oh god.
doing like Three Stooges reactions to his artwork.
Yeah.
They're just in the background going, like running around in circles and fainting.
And then basically they're like, we should bring this one to the club. The boss is like, no. He's like, you know what, Walter? Why don't you like keep doing your stuff here, and then one day we'll give you a show. You know, just don't worry about it right now. Go ahead and keep working on your stuff, son. You're doing great.
Oh dear.
And he goes, by the way, here's $50 for that cat statue. And Dick's like, gee, $50 for something I made. Can you believe it?
You sure can go buy a lot of bubble gum with $50.
Except that mean old Bazooka Joe, am I right?
This is the part where you have to remember, this man lives alone and takes care of himself.
And he goes, gee, golly, $50.
Which, granted, for $59 is an all right amount of money.
I'm assuming that's $10,000.
Judging by his reaction.
Yeah. Like his rent's like a quarter, you know?
But this is also like the boss also says, I'll sponsor you, and starts paying him a per diem to produce art as well.
Yeah, he's like, whatever you need, Walter. Tell me if you need more money. I got it. This is when I write my notes. I go, I don't think Walter would hide that it's a dead guy.
No.
Because he's so fucking dumb that
There's
he would tell
no cunning in this man.
If
He's not...
If Carla just said, Walter, how'd you do it? He'd be like, well...
This police officer showed up, and he was trying to gas me where I got my horse.
And so I killed him, and then I covered him in clay because I'm like, well, nobody will know.
Where y'all going? Don't you want to hear more about my art?
So then the boss and Carla leave, and then Dick jumps in the air screaming, yippee, like he's Jake Lloyd and Phantom Menace.
Doing a heel click like a doozy.
Then the landlady comes in, and she sees the statue and leaves. I write, it's honestly not a great statue.
It's just grotesque, Mike. It's grotesque.
And so then they go back to the club. This is when Guitar Man returns, singing more
more of Chop Meets Dad singing the same song.
Yeah. And then these detectives who stand out horribly, like fucking Dragnet showed up, right? These guys are like,
It's a real G-men.
And they're just walking around like looking at tables and looking like who ruffians, who committed a crime in here. At this point, it's like, why are there so many cops? I guess they're out for the drugs.
They're looking for Lou, man. They're looking for the cop that's been killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before Lou was killed, before Hotshot...
Johnny Baseball, Hotshot Sweater Lou.
Yeah, Johnny Baseball, Hotshot Sweater Man. Lou, I don't know who that is.
That's okay, yeah.
Ain't no Lou here.
They even go around, they're like, have you seen that Hotshot guy? He threw a real fastball, 95 miles an hour.
So back to the club.
Yeah, so these cops are walking around, they're like, have you seen Johnny Baseball? And they're like, I don't know, I'm not talking to this guy. The artists are like, man, this place is getting real weird. I feel like we're going to end up in some sort of lineup at some point. Like, maybe we should get out of here. And by the way, these quote artists are always smoking joints.
Yes.
Constantly.
So it's like, how come they've never been... Like, how come the only person to ever get arrested for drugs is the fucking busboy? Hotshot Sweater guy ain't that's such a fucking good cop. Because, I mean, come on. That poet on the stage, you're telling me there wasn't a little bit of, quote, inspiration?
Oh, shit's falling out of his pockets.
But he's like, no, I'm going after the simple man.
Yeah, of course. Puts up less of a fight. Yeah, you go after the weekend gazelle.
You got to start at the bottom before you get to the top. Am I right? You know, they're gonna. You know what? Back in the day, if you arrested a simple man, they'd make you a senator. That's how it went.
It's true. Speaking of that poet guy, there's another pretty good exchange that happens during this moment in the club where he's farting on about how great he is again, as he does in every scene. It's kind of wonderful. And at one point he says, I'm proud to say my poetry is only understood by that minority who's aware. And then another person at the table goes, aware of what? And the person next to her goes, not of anything, stupid, just aware.
But this is the best, is Dick comes walking into the club. Oh my God. He looks like the biggest asshole I've ever seen in my life.
this movie is so early that they made this scene, or do you think they were lampooning something else?
He's definitely supposed to be making fun of.
Yeah, if Corman was hanging out at coffee shops and just like taking notes on the assholes that came in and out of that place, this guy walked in at some point.
But I mean, this scene has been duplicated in hundreds of movies after this. Do you think it was the first movie to do this? Like, oh, now he's an artist. He goes from being simple to now wearing the beret.
I don't know.
That trope has happened a million times.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like it has to have happened somewhere else too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Corman's whole shtick
guess it's
isn't
kinda-
making up new stuff.
I like looking at
It's kind of My Fair
me too.
Lady, I guess.
Yeah.
You take a simple person and turn them fancy, I guess.
You're right. This is pretty much My Fair Lady.
Yeah, but with blood. So he walks.
Oh, I made a statue. Of me, Eliza, made a statue.
Damn.
So wouldn't it have been funnier if in My Fair Lady she kept trying to be a whore and they were just like, no, stop it. You don't need to suck dicks anymore. Stop it. She's pulling a Scorchy, They go to like some debutante ball and she's like,
Here, why don't you go over to the table, huh? I'll take care of you real quick, sir.
stop it. So, okay, Dick is dressed, as I wrote down everything, he has a very long cigarette like he's the fucking queen or something.
The penguin walked in.
Yeah, like he's the penguin
Meredith.
or like Audrey Hepburn or some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's like a 6-foot long cigarette. And then he's wearing a beret. He has a, quote, Zen stick, as he calls
it. It's a stick
it.
he found on the way in.
By the way, it's not like a walking cane. It's like a
Harry Potter wand.
I was just going to say, he's like, Patronus.
Yeah, he swung by
Give me
Universal Studios on the way in. He's like, it picks you. This one said I was an artist.
And he's wearing like an asshole shirt. He's dressed, he's insane. And then he has a new way of talking. Like now he's talking like a regular person. He doesn't go like, oh, gee. He goes like, yes, I would like a cheesecake and an espresso, please.
It's showing his confidence now. He has confidence. He doesn't have to. He's grown up. He's maturing.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And so then the poet comes over to talk to him. They're best friends now. And then
What a star fucker.
So the artists, they're all like, hey, we got to get on this, right? And then probably my favorite character in the movie, this really bitchy lady shows up.
Alice.
Okay, Alice the model. Because this is amazing. She comes over and she goes, why is this busboy sitting here? That's her first line.
As she's walking in, the poet guy kind of rolls his eyes and says, oh, turn the table and bring a bowl. I may be sick. He wants no part of this lady.
But this is great because it's almost, she looks at everybody like, isn't this that guy that never picked up the cups?
Did you get her nickname? It was Alice the Awful.
Alice the Awful. Yeah.
She's like, do you know how many times this guy's tried to put his finger in my shirt? Like, this is a daily. Like all of a sudden now, she's always like, yeah, he's always saying like, I got a piece of lint on me or something, and he's
like, really? This guy? This is the guy now?
I'd always like kind of catch him leering over me, like he's standing above me, looking down, wondering if I'm done with my coffee, but his eyes aren't on my cup. I mean, they're on some cups, but not the one with the coffee in it,
Not empty ones.
And so then they're like, no, he's an artist now. And she's like, oh, great, I'm a model.
$25 an hour.
Yeah, which is like $100,000 an hour.
Yeah, it's pricey.
In 1959.
Like, would you like to do me? And he's immediately seething with rage. He's like, I just might.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah, he goes like, whoa. Time out.
For some reason, this lady pisses off everybody.
Yeah.
And it's almost like
even simple, friendly Walter immediately clicks into, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Yeah, he like, there's no dissent. He's just like immediately like, I hate this fucking bitch. Everybody agrees, by the way. Nobody likes her. She's my favorite character, though.
She is Alice the Awful.
So then the boss chimes in, right? And he's like, hey, I think Dick's going to try freeform now. No more models, okay?
Yeah, this realism thing may not be a great idea after all.
And the poet keeps looking at me. He's like, stop talking about freeform, all right? Dick's an artist. He'd do what he wants. And this is great, though, is that, Carla says you should try a female figure and get away from all this death. And she's like, I'll model for you for free, Walter. And he's just like, as I write, Dick gets a huge boner under the table.
Yeah.
And goes,
it's like O'Reilly under the tray at his plate.
Like you could see as like the T-Rex showed up in Jurassic Park. Like you see all the cups of coffee go And they're just like, what was that?
Where's the goat? It's in the corner covered in clay.
Okay, the artists, guys, right? So the fucking guys from Muppets. He goes, man, if you're going to be an artist, you need to do nudes, nudes, nudes. And then they start laughing. And the poet, basically, he's like, can you guys get out of here? I don't need your riffraff up in here. We're all going to end up in, quote, night court. That's what he writes. And I'm like, that's a thing?
Yeah, Harry Anderson.
Like, you go to court at night?
Wait, you never watched that show? It's
Wait,
great.
was that the bald guy?
You got Richard Mole as the bailiff. It's great. It's like, I want to go to night court.
So I think it was because of like their pot and stuff like that. They would get taken in.
Yeah.
That's all that they're making a reference to.
But then the model, this is great. So Alice the Awful just goes, oh, let's change the subject. I'm sick of talking about sculpture. Nobody knows how to do that anymore, much less the busboy from the yellow door. And I write, what? Like, we now live in a world where nobody's a sculptor? She's like, that died with Michelangelo. Okay?
Like, I've been to Greece, saw it. Nobody's ever done any better.
Yeah. She's like, it's a dead art. Sculpture? Who does that? And
Can't even do arms.
And this is great. It's like Dick looks at him and goes, I don't like you.
He's really about to just be like, die, 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 die.
And then she says, she looks at him, she goes, oh, Dick, or oh, Walter, you're just a simple little farm boy, and the rest of us are sophisticated beatniks.
Sophisticated beatniks.
And then the artists, they go like, all right, we're done.
So I've met an Alice person before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was at a gallery opening in some loft in L.A.
This
and
guy. This guy. Hollywood Hughes story.
Hollywood Hughes.
I was talking to this girl. My friend and I were talking to this girl, and she's like talking about how she's an artist and she's a actress now, and she moved from some Dakota or something to be an artist. And I'm like, so what are you doing for work? And she's like, you know, it's hard to find stuff and doing a lot of auditions. I'm like, so like, how do you make money? She's like, oh, I'm a waitress at some restaurant. I'm like, so you're a waitress more than an actress, right?
Oh, Jesus. Whoa. Shots fired.
That did not go over well.
Man.
So I guess I was Alice in this?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
you were the Alice.
Alice.
What a dick.
Man.
I'm like, what is your profession?
Welcome back to the Hollywood Hughes moment.
Seriously.
You're not an artist until
The
you
Hughes
make money.
stays in the picture.
One time, Hughes told me a story when he was in a college class, and a girl showed up with a Louis Vuitton purse, and she was all brandishing it around. And Hughes looked at her and he says, oh, please, that's last season's.
She was wearing it out of season, and it was from a year ago.
I looked at him and I just was
man.
like, Hughes, don't tell me these things.
Trying to like you, Hughes.
How to make friends and influence people.
God. That Hollywood Hughes, man. He's...
Yeah, I liked how you said I ran into a girl who's like an Alice. You're the Alice. You are Hughes the awful. Hughes the horrible.
You ran into a girl who was lucky enough to get a decent deal on an older purse because she can't afford the new one. You're like, you're poor, bitch.
He called her out. What did she say after you called her out?
Oh, who the hell knows?
Like the
Nothing nice.
And by calling her an Alice, the story was set up as like, this chick was a real asshole. Check this out. She walked in and I was like, Pratt, your purse is outdated.
Hollywood Hughes the horrible. That's Jesus, Hughes.
I hope this is a recurring segment.
He's done
there's
this.
a whole bunch of
He's
stuff.
done this dozens of times. I've been there with
We
him.
already told the story of the Prince Fielder story.
Yeah,
So-
when he insulted him to his face. He'll insult anybody to their
I
face.
know. He's not afraid of a damn thing, that Hollywood Hughes. He was in Matilda, goddammit.
At least I got paid for my acting.
Right? Jesus.
Okay, this is funny because after the poet is like happy that the quote artist left because he's like, oh, thank God. And then she looks at him and she's like, I don't believe this. Is this all some sort of ruse on my behalf? And I'm just thinking I write down like what? The whole like she thinks of herself so highly that they were like, okay, Dick, I got a real great joke, Walter. Don't come into work today as the busboy because Alice the Awful is going to be in town, okay? Come up dressed like an asshole. You're going to sit down at this table, pretend you're a sculptor, and we're going to get one over on her. Like, what a bizarre setup for some sort of joke. But then they're just like, no, he's really an artist. And she's like, yeah. And then he gets mad and he tells her, he's like, I'm a real sculptor. I'll tell you what, I'll And then she's like, this is great. She takes a pat of butter in her hand. She goes, oh, yeah? Well, if you're a sculptor, why don't you sculpt something?
I hate it when that happens. Like, that's walking
People do
up
that to you all the time?
No, walking up to like a comedian and go, tell me something funny.
Yeah, you never
say a joke.
Never do that.
That's not how it works.
Ever.
You don't just hand a fucking sculptor a pat of butter and go, yeah, well, sculpt me something, asshole. It's like, no. So that
doesn't work with any art form.
But this was great, though, this is probably the smartest thing he does in the whole movie. He smashes it in her hand. He goes, there, it's a hand. And she gets all mad, and she's like...
This round to you, Walter.
She's like, that's not a sculptor. And then basically... Dick takes off, and Carla looks over at Alice the Awful, calls her obnoxious. But Alex goes, but he's such an idiot.
That would be, I mean, I guess from Alice's point of view, like, you have this busboy that doesn't pick up anything. He's kind of slow, and he's just always there, like, worshiping you. You leave on a trip to model somewhere. You come back, and now he's a somebody. And you're like, well, this is a joke, right? Like, this guy's
She's
an
like,
idiot.
wait.
You're all messing with me.
When did we stop making fun of the busboy? As soon as this guy left, everybody's talking behind his back. Now you guys are getting all mad at me? Come on.
Just calling them all out. Who are we making fun of now?
Carla, just the other day you were saying, like, shit's going off on stuff. So then we go to later, right? The model leaves the club and Dick follows her home. And I write, I mean, this is probably not the first time he did this before he was, quote, an artist.
Where do you think you got that Carla picture?
Yeah.
You know, she left her, oh my gosh, Carla left her door unlocked. Maybe I should go inside and make sure it's locked. Also, I don't think she'll miss one pair of underwear.
She hasn't missed any of them yet.
Or this picture.
That'd be funny, the picture he stole from her apartment.
Yeah, she comes to his apartment later. She's like, oh, where'd you get this?
I was looking all around for my framed headshot.
Oh, what are these panties used as a duster? These look familiar.
I see you shop at the same stores.
Okay, so then we go to later. Yeah, okay, so she goes home. Dick follows her, right? And then he knocks on her door when she gets inside, and she answers, and he's like, I just wanted to apologize. She goes, okay, great, you apologize, and slams the door. And then he knocks on the door, and you know what? You just got to offer a little money. And all of a sudden, she'll change her tune. Because he's like, you know what? I want to make a sculpture of you. She goes, all right, great. You know my price? Yeah, fine. When do you want to do it? And he's like, how about tonight? And it's like, she doesn't think this is suspicious at all, by the way. She's like, whatever, 25 an hour. Huh.
I call bullshit in that 25 an hour. She's like, 25 an hour, but it's a 4-hour minimum.
Right.
And by the way, she didn't get the money up front, so that would be a real funny one. She poses, and then he's like, he just does the old thing from Psychomania. He empties the empty pockets, and he's like,
oh, it happened again.
Oh, every time. So they go to Dick's house. He brings her inside, and the landlady sees him walk in with a woman. And she's like, better get my glass and listen in.
Oh, man.
So then the model gets undressed. So Alice the Awful gets undressed while Dick plays with his clay. She poses naked in a rocking chair. And he like brings a scarf on. He's like, why don't you wear this, huh?
Yeah, tie it around your neck once.
Yeah.
Once.
And then he slowly goes behind her. You know, because she's like, well, aren't you going to get started? He's like, I will. Hold on. You know. And then he grabs the scarf and he tightens it.
Yeah.
And he holds on until she stops squirming.
This is such a mice and men. Like, This is so like, you keep squeezing those rabbits too hard, Lenny. She had pretty hair.
But and this is another moment too, where it is surprisingly effective.
It's great. The Dutch angle, the look on his face,
the look, the tension as it slowly we lead to that. Like I know I described it as happening fairly quickly and uneventfully, but it is a tense moment.
Right.
Yeah, because you can hear her getting strangled out. She's like, and he's just like, yeah. He looks like he's inches away from releasing. He's just like, yes. So then we go. I guess, is this the boss's house that we go to? We go to like
a beatnik living room.
We like go to a fucking living room, like
it's probably a commune.
A commune. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So basically, all the degenerates from the Yellow Door hang out at this house. And Carla gives the poet some eggs, and he's asking all these things. Are these gluten-free, free-range, all organic, or
it's just
something?
Rabbit food. Basically, the start of veganism.
I write,
there was no eggs. It was like tofu and wheat germ.
As I write, asshole stuff.
Of course.
And then Dick shows up, and this is great. Do you guys notice what he's wearing?
When Dick comes back in?
Yeah.
When Walter shows up? Yeah, he's wearing like a Burger King crown.
Guys, he's wearing the murder scarf.
Is that where he
that's
got
right,
it? So I
yeah.
didn't piece together that was the same scarf.
I was like, this dude is cold-blooded. He fucking strangled this girl with the scarf and then he wore it. He's like, well, better not let it go to waste, am I right? Wears it out. So now he's just brazenly like, yeah, I'd kill for a living.
By the way, is it interesting to either one of you that this movie came out a year before Psycho?
Oh, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, considering that there's some really tense death scenes and, the way he just murdered that pretty blonde lady.
Yeah, no, that's
well done. Getting to the finish line before Hitch did.
So then, Dick shows up wearing the murder scarf, and then they offer him some soy and wheat germ pancakes and gluten-free eggs and all this shit, and Dick declines, but he's like, but I got a new statue. Can everybody come help me unload it? And I'm like, hold on now. Does Dick have a car, or did he just fucking drag this all the way to this house?
How's the clay drying so quickly?
That's what I was wondering, too. Oh, and actually, that comes up later.
Yeah.
Hey, put her in the oven?
Well, no.
No.
So then, basically, they bring in this shitty statue, right? It's of the dead model, and the poet says, I'm honored to know this man. Like,
Yeah.
Well, let's hope you'll be saying that in court later.
and then he also says, he goes, Walter, I'm going to throw a party in your honor tonight at the Yellow Door. And I write, well, hold on. What does that mean? Just the same as always? They're going to go to the fucking Yellow Door and hang out and just fucking bug everybody and give shitty poetry again? What did he walk up to the boss and he goes, hello, I'd like to change tonight's programming. We're going to honor Walter.
Yeah.
Yeah, this hipster's the mayor of this town. Like
Mayor Hipster.
Mayor Hipster. Mayor Max of Hipsterville.
If you don't think that there's still a neighborhood like this in San Francisco, you're wrong.
Oh, right. I know.
There is.
There's at least 8 people.
They all go to the same asshole club, and they all fucking, do the same shitty poetry.
Don't worry, you've never heard of it, and it doesn't have a sign on the door.
Right.
But you can tell by that light gray door.
But it says the yellow door on the gray door.
Right.
The poet also says to him, he goes,
We're opening a bar, you and I. We're going to do this. Everything's great, but it's called the Yellow Door.
The poet also says, by the way, he goes, and you know what, everybody? I will compose a new poem. And I write, everybody is groaning under their breath about this. They're just like, oh no.
Nobody asked for that.
And then Carla gives Dick a quick kiss on the lips, and I write, oh no. Oh no. Then we go to the Yellow Door, and I write, because does either of you want to explain to me what we witness?
Walter walks in. He's wearing a Burger King crown.
That's what I wrote. Burger
it's
King
not
crown.
legitimately a Burger King crown, but it's a Burger King crown.
In a king's chair.
He's carrying a plunger that looks like it's been painted, probably gold, and he's wielding it like a scepter. And
it's probably silver.
He was just shaking his head. It's
been painted shiny gray. And he's wearing this like construction paper sheriff star.
And he's drinking out of what I wrote a fucking pewter champagne flute.
Oh, that's right.
I'm like, what the fuck is this?
What are we even doing?
And like Carla's just giving him more champagne, and he's like, hey, Carla, he's all drunk. He's like, Carla, why don't you come over here and give me a kiss? And she's like, oh, Walter, you're such a lech.
Oh, it's cute now.
And then I wrote, isn't she with the boss?
It's never clearly defined.
It's like, I guess,
Can't be tied down to one man, dude.
It's almost the
lifestyle.
60s, man.
Yeah, monogamy is overrated, man.
Monogamy is repetition, and repetition is death.
Yeah, man.
Heroin and weed, bro.
So then the poet comes up, and he recites his latest masterpiece. People clap, but they don't really want to.
Well, they heard it, but they didn't listen.
Yeah, well, because the artist is... Well, okay, that lady that is... riding the H train. She's at a table. She's like, that was the deepest shit I ever heard. And one of the artist guys is like, yeah, what did he say? I didn't even hear it. I was too high. It's basically what he says.
I respect that guy. He's very honest all the time.
And then we cut to later, and Dick's still getting drunk, and the boss kind of looks at me and goes, hey, Walter, why don't we cool it with the drinks? You might get a little bit of the old loose lips,
Yeah.
And I also write, I said, do you think it's a good idea to give a slow man this much alcohol? Like, that's probably not a good idea.
And look, at this point, turn his ass in.
Yeah.
You turn him in and then sell that artwork, which is now more valuable because a killer made it.
Well, here's the thing, though. The boss wasn't at the artist's house.
Right, so he can't
He never
prove...
saw the model lady.
It's true.
So I don't even know if he knows about it yet.
Well, I mean, he could put 2 and 2 together with the artwork that he knows about.
Yeah, but like at this point, he doesn't know that he murdered another lady.
Oh, he only knows about
yeah, because I think
Johnny
they were
Baseball.
kind of being like, kind of putting it to the side. Like
Yeah.
he didn't know because he wasn't at that flop house, was he? That crack house?
I don't believe so.
I think that's, by the way, the center of the H connection. The H train ends at that artist's house.
That is an H train station.
So then Dick walks home, right? Okay, basically, oh no, he goes over to the fucking popular table and he's like, I'm gonna make a bunch of new statues. I'm gonna make one of movie stars and a bakers and the mayor. I'm gonna make one of
Yeah, this is his clay manifesto.
His kill list.
and then the president and then
He's just like, and I'm gonna do it to impress Jodie Foster.
And so he's just kind of stumbling about this. And I write, at this rate, nobody's going to be left in the city. But they'll be making money hand over fist, so no worries.
That's how this Twilight Zone ends. He's in a city of clay statues. And there's finally time for his books.
And so then Dick walks home, and he's walking through some alley, and he's like, I need to do something before everybody forgets about me. It's like, Walter, you just made a statue.
Hey, he's got that imposter syndrome, man. I know it.
So then he walks to, which is definitely a real thing, is an all-night factory. Where this is great. So some guy's just kind of like buzzsaw on wood, like 2x4s in the middle of the night, and he's just like zzz, and then Walter,
I want to fill in the gaps on this guy. I think he just had a fight with his wife. And he's just, you know what? I'm going to go saw some wood. I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night.
This is like a whole warehouse full of
He's got the keys to the warehouse. He's blowing off some steam.
This is like Mr. Depot. Mr. Home Depot.
Mr. Depot.
Places like this still exist. So I didn't go to one that was a lumberyard, but it was a steel smelting in Chicago. Runs 24/7.
Huh.
You just walk right in, and they're like,
and there's
get
only
the hell out of there.
There's only one guy working.
There's like seriously like
literally
3.
one man working
alone.
Alone.
With
yeah,
a
there was
power
like
tool.
3, but none of them were like near each other.
Did you pop your head in to tell him his equipment was outdated?
Yeah, I got pictures and everything.
He was just like, you don't pour it like that.
Yeah. You suck at your job, man.
You call that smelting? And so, yeah, Walter kind of stumbles in, and he's like, you sawed that one crooked, you asshole. But he kind of walks up. This is great, though. It's like Walter walks up, and then the guy goes like, whoa, who are you? And he's like, and then he just kills the guy.
Yeah, he saws the guy's head off with his own saw. This is like an Italian movie now.
Yeah, this is a real Duke Mitchell move, is he just kind of takes him, saws his head off, and then we cut to morning at the yellow door, right? We can't see that yellow, but we know it's the place because it says it above the door. Dick comes to the show. Like, he comes to show the boss. He's like, hey, boss, look at my latest creation. And so, this is great. Some guy's selling papers in the background, and he goes, extra, extra, read about the man who got cut in half. And the boss is like, oh, no. And then Dick shows him this severed head statue. By the way, you know what? I totally forgot to mention this. Earlier in the movie, when Walter was getting hugged by everybody when he first made that cat, there was a great guy in the background at one point that goes, can somebody clean up these cups?
Yes. Oh, I forgot all about him.
Just as so he's a shitty busboy.
The Mike Wood cameo.
There's fucking cups everywhere.
That would be Mike, man. He'd be so pissed. He's like,
During a celebration. You are the kind of guy who walks through a proposal.
Oh, you guys have no idea how quiet I am in public. Like,
just quietly seething.
I have gotten wrong orders and just never said a word.
Just ate it.
Just
shut up and ate it.
I just don't even care.
I'm okay with that, though. I can't send food back. Why? Because I don't know what it's going to come back with.
I agree. I'm
pretty go with the flow about that, too, because it's usually something small. It's not like they're going to give you a completely different thing.
I never complain in public.
It's just like, like I'm one of those low carb weirdos, so it's like sometimes my salad will come with croutons anyway, and I'll just pick them off because I'm a grown ass man and I don't need to send it back.
But when I'm done,
oh god,
when I'm done,
oh no,
I'll be like, hey, you forgot whatever it was that I ordered.
No,
I'm like,
that's so huge.
He's one of these.
Hey,
I was just gonna say,
I'm not gonna pay for something I didn't get.
Have you ever been to a restaurant with somebody that's like rude to wait staff?
Oh,
it's
the
so
worst.
uncomfortable. Where they're just like, hey, fucking, and it's like, Okay.
Jesus.
Guy.
I was once on a first date with somebody who was bragging to me about how often she sends food back to the kitchen.
Oh, boy.
Like I'm supposed to be like, oh, man.
Whoa.
I didn't realize.
Your steak's wrong? What about you, sir? No, I'm good.
This is off topic, but one time I was with Man, and we were at this place, and I was like, "Oh, didn't you go to a date, like a first date at this restaurant?" And he goes, "Yeah," and I was like, "I heard the food isn't good," and he goes, "Trust me, the food was the highlight."
I was going to say, we had a friend that was actually rude to cops. When he get pulled over, he'd just be a fucking asshole.
Oh, I had that happen once. I got pulled over on PCH. They were profiling because of my car, and then like they found 2 white boys and didn't know what to do. They're like, we're bored anyway. So like I'm full on getting like frisked, and he's searching my car, and they're just killing time, these 2 cops. My friend is sassing these guys the whole time.
Oh, man.
And the cops start,
remember
but the cops start sassing him back. Like they're having a fucking grand old time, and I'm sitting on the hood of a cop car like I really just want to go home. And the guy's frisking my friend. He's like, "So why are you wearing your sister's jeans?" My friend smirks back at him while he's bent over on the side of the car and goes, "How do you know what my sister's jeans look like?" And everyone's laughing but me.
Yeah, anytime I've ever had a run-in with the police officer, I'm like, "Yes, I'm sorry, sir. Here's my insurance. Thank you very much."
Can I go?
Please?
I'm like, my last name's not terribly common, and there have been members of my family who have done time. I'm like, I don't want them searching names and getting the wrong person or noticing that, like, I come from a line.
And they go like, "Did your father used to own a yellow van, sir?"
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. DNA. You know what's real funny about DNA? It just follows the family, you know?
You know where else they like studs? And I'm like, start the van.
So then, okay, the boss is obviously disgusted as he pulls out a severed head now, covered in clay.
And we're doing another, like, exaggerated reaction. You expect a boom to happen on the soundtrack.
He's like, "Oh my God." And Dick's just like kind of showing him. He's like, "Don't you like it? Don't you like it?" And he's like putting it on his hand like a fucking puppet, you know, just putting it in his face. He's like, put it down. Put it down. And then he's just basically like, "All right, Walter, I think it's time for your big show, huh?"
He wants Walter to stop, and he's going to throw this show, but how is that going to stop Walter?
I don't know. I think at this point he's like, I better cash out, you know. I'm going to turn my chips into the cashier.
It's funny. He says at one point, I'm beginning to feel responsible. I'm like, beginning?
Yeah, he does say that to me.
You're the reason this is happening. You could have stopped him a while ago.
Yeah, like at this point, like if there was a trial, they'd be like, "Well, you did. Actually, it is mostly your fault because
part of this now.
Persuaded a simple man to."
Yeah, I don't know what state this takes place in necessarily. Did they specify?
I don't know, but this is like a real Manson type situation. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But the idea, I'm pretty sure that there's some rules about when you know that it's happening and you don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Failure to report a crime?
Yeah. I think he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But he's just hoping maybe...
You may not go as far up the river, but you're getting in the water.
We go to later, and all the artists are like sitting in the H house, the H train house, and they're like, "We're not allowed to go to the show."
Yeah, I didn't get this. They're like, "We're not allowed to go to the show." Maxwell's really pissed.
I get it. Because when they all show up later, they're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were all idiots. One, like the poet was the nicest one. He was the most pissed.
Yeah, the poet Maxwell says, "I'm going anyways, and I'm going to wear a suit with sandals, and he'll like it."
By the way, do you know the background of the suit with sandals? A little bit of trivia about that. He wasn't supposed to be wearing sandals in that scene, but his feet had gotten so swollen from wearing these ill-fitted sandals in all the other scenes that he couldn't wear his shoes.
So he just showed up.
And so he's like, "I got no choice, man." And they're like, "You know what? That's funny."
It makes a great...
It works. Like,
character thing.
Audiences in the early screenings laugh their asses off when they first see him in a tuxedo with sandals on, but it was never intended to be a part of that character or part of that scene. It was just he physically couldn't put his shoes on. His feet had gotten so gross from wearing these dumbass sandals all through the movie.
He also says something, but he's like, "And it's not just to drink his champagne and that free food that I'm showing up." So then basically, okay, then Dick shows up. And I guess Carla's his date. And he's like, "Go, kindly, I want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh no, here it comes."
Yeah, what kind of guys are you into, Carla?
Oh, so that's what happens. They walk to the show, and you get the whole...
the awkward I like you.
Will you go out with me?
Yeah, like as I
He
read,
straight up proposes.
like a fucking 10-year-old boy. He's like, oh, what kind of guys do you like, Carla? And she's just like, oh, Jesus.
circle yes or maybe?
I don't want to make statues anymore. I want to get married. I'm like, why can't you do both?
Right?
Yeah. And this is when you also learn that she works at the club. And that's when I write, like, doing what?
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, Walter,
She
I
gets
love
people
you.
their age.
She goes, Walter, I love you, but I'm not in love with you,
And this is where I write down, let's see how Walter takes rejection.
And at one point, she even goes so far as to say, I only kissed you because of your work.
Yeah, I was
I'm
like, oh,
Carla,
boy.
that's a little shitty, Carla.
It's like, okay, Carla.
I'm not on his side, but I'm also not on yours.
Yeah,
now.
like, now that's real fucked up. Like,
you're all wrong.
she's
now.
like, no, you don't understand. I'm just in it because you're famous, Walter.
Yeah.
If you were to sell something, you can have sex with me, but we'll never get married because I'm just here for the fame.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, I guess I respect her honesty.
Oh, no, you don't understand how this works. But also, by the way, he says after he's like, the boss is always trying to hit on you and you're always rejecting him. And I was almost like, is Carla just going to be like, no, Walter, you don't understand. I like women.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's what I thought where it was going.
Look, I was hoping I wouldn't have to spell it out for you.
Yeah, but Walter.
You've given me no choice. I'm kind of in a corner here. I haven't seen my girlfriend in a while. Her name's Alice. Have you met her?
Yeah, awful Alice.
That's why she's so mean to her. Because everyone keeps hitting on her.
Oh, but Dick freaks out. So, like, Walter freaks out over the whole thing. And he's like, and he's all upset. And she's like, look, calm down. We'll talk about it later. Let's go into the show. And then he's like, Carla, can I make a statue out of you? Can I make you a statue? They go to the show, and then all of Walter's 5 pieces or 4 pieces are on display. 5 pieces on display. And then the chubby guy who bought the cat's admiring the work with some like art critic, and he's like, "Oh boy, you got a deal because once I write my review, it's gonna be about $25,000 for one of these, huh?" And then Dick's sitting all depressed at a table, and the poet comes up. He's like, "Walter, you're gonna be rich," and he's just like, "Leave me alone."
And one of the other guys, I think it's either Rosencrantz or Guildenstern, of the two Statler and Waldorf guys, comes up and goes, "I thought you put money down to Maxwell." And he goes, "I do, but 25,000."
Yeah. He's like, "Come on, man,
dude, come on,
we can buy that H house." And so then also the artists, when they show up, the Muppets, they put a joint in Murdered Man's mouth.
Yeah.
And everybody, by the way, everybody's fucking touching the art.
Yeah.
It's like, no, get your goddamn hands off it. Because they're all like petting it and everything.
Yeah. And if you've gone so far as to put something in its mouth, you may have noticed it has a mouth.
Yeah. It's like, it fits real well. Speaking of which, Carla goes over and she's petting the fucking woman statue and then realizes there's an exposed finger.
And it is very horrifying that she found it. Also, why are you petting the statue?
Exactly. Nobody put a sign that says hands off. I mean, you're
do not
artists.
touch soft clay.
These
Why
people-
would they let people touch
These people go to the fucking museum and they're just putting their hands all over the Mona Lisa. No wonder it has to be behind glass.
Yeah.
This is why there are rules about this sort of thing.
Like, ma'am, please don't pet the portrait, please. I'll tell you, though, I have been in museums and people are idiots.
People touch Rembrandts and shit all the
They
time.
fucking get up like with their nose up to it and they're just like,
I feel like once a week
smell the
I'm
oil.
seeing an article where somebody like destroyed some priceless thing because they were like trying to take a selfie with it or some shit.
Oh, that girl that dropped all those pots.
Yeah,
like-
I went to that museum, by the way. It's great. You can walk through it.
You told her what angle she can get the selfie from?
Yeah, it was like here, lady.
You want to do it over there where the lighting's better.
I'm going to the Broad on the 7th or the 11th of September.
I was going to tell you, though, about that museum. There actually was a guy working there a lot like Walter.
Of course there was.
In that room, by the way. There was a guy, and as soon as you walk out, he goes, "Hey, check this out, huh? This is from a meteor. This thing came from the fucking moon over here." And he's showing you all this stuff, and he goes, "Come over here. Go ahead, smell it. Smell it. Put your nose right up to that one. Smell it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "You know where that came from? Bottom of the ocean." And he's just telling you all this stuff.
I kind of love this guy.
He, by the way, has a security guard vest on, and I'm just like, is this like part of the show?
That's kind of great.
Like, he was just like kind of making it up, doing a little free ride.
I wonder if it's just because he works security, he's heard people talk about it enough times that now he has that knowledge.
Mike has this issue where people just see him and they want to talk to him.
Yeah, people just talk to me. It's very annoying.
It just happens. It's
You're
hilarious.
like the last guy who wants that.
Yeah, I just kind of laugh and go,
I'd rather no one speaks to you.
He gets mad when we go out to eat, and I talk talk loudly, and then people will join in the conversation.
Is this why you started podcasting?
I
hate talk to people without them responding.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
You'd rather type.
Okay, so then, like, basically Carla finds out, she knows the jig is up, and I mean, seriously, nobody ever questioned why all these people, quote, disappeared, and then Dick came out with a new statue.
The next night.
Like, nobody, like, not one person's like, oh, whatever happened to Awful Alice?
I know. And what's weird, too, about Carla when she figures this out is the next thing she does is not get the cops. Like, she has this whole, like, she starts creeping around, like, I gotta get out of here.
She does the old, like, run!
Yeah. Like, no, you didn't do this. Like, call a police officer.
Run! Like, by the way, Carla, you're in safety.
You're surrounded by other people. You're in public. He can't hurt you.
But she's
now's
like,
the time to go, there's a body in there.
I got to get to that Home Depot place.
Yeah.
Like, and she just takes off running.
I got to find someplace dark and full of sharp objects.
I got to go to where that extra man got cut in half. No, they'll never find me there. But this is when Walter stops her. And she says, don't you see, Carla? I made them immortal. I can do the same for you. And she's just like, I got to get out of here. And then books it, right? And then the cops... Okay, some, like, cop all of a sudden breaks open one of the guys with a chair. Like, he somehow knows all of a sudden... Like, Carla's never said anything out loud. Like, she said there are people in there, but to Walter...
Oh, I don't think he did that because of her.
Like, all of a sudden,
did it anyway.
He's just like, I don't like art. And then he just...
Everyone's a fucking critic, man.
He takes a steel chair to it.
He's like, this is the worst, man. I'm going to hit it with a steel chair, brother.
And so he
was about to drop a leg on it, too.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? This looks like that fucking hotshot sweater Johnny baseball asshole.
I never liked that guy. Now's my chance.
So he clocks him over the head. Steel chair to the head. And then everybody starts breaking open the statues, see the bodies, right? And then Dick chases Carla. They go to Mr. Depot's home. With all the wood, and they're just kind of running around. For some reason, Roger Corman got like some sort of lumber mill for the evening that they could film
Had to
at.
make the best use of it. During this time when Walter's kind of giving chase, that's when we start to hear voices.
Yeah.
And you're like, Walter. And I'm like, this is really late in the game to add ghosts.
But they're all supposed to be the people that he killed.
Yeah, his victims are haunting him.
Was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't hear the cat go?
No, I heard. No, I didn't hear the cat go meow.
Wouldn't that be great though if they did have a bunch of voices? And the cat meow halibut.
You're supposed to give me halibut.
You know what would have been a great addition to this is Scorchy. She's in that art. She's like, I've never seen art so realistic, huh? But it's got a real dick.
Mama's doing it.
Let me find out. Who wants to see me?
Like, we don't need your services,
Connie, can you get out of this movie? So then we go to basically like they catch him because Dick goes home, right? And then there's more voices in his head, and he goes, "I'll hide where they never find me." And then he picks up some clay
and walks out of frame.
Everybody storms through the door.
The cops catch up. They're still looking for Walter. They walk through the door. They see him hanging. This is his greatest work, Hanging Man.
Yeah, the poet in voiceover says, I think he would have called it Hanging Man, his greatest work.
You know what? Not the time, dude.
Wouldn't that be
we
great
don't
if-
need your bullshit right now.
I wanted everybody to just do the... You know what nobody did in this movie was do the snap.
Yeah,
instead of clap.
no clapping.
Man. It's almost like they didn't really do that. It was like a cartoons thing.
Well, they do it now.
Yeah, and this ties into one of Dick Miller's complaints. This final scene where he's hanging, the clay wasn't as noticeable, especially with the low budget and the black and white.
There was nothing, yeah.
His face looks a little weird, like he did smear some stuff on him.
Yeah.
And that kind of works too, I feel. You know, it's still effective that in a moment of desperation right before hanging himself, he just sort of slapped himself in the face with some clay. But I guess Dick wanted it to be like he encased himself and like made a piece of artwork out of himself, which would have been really cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the 95 remake. I don't know if that's what they went with. Probably not, seeing as it was made for television. But I still think this worked, though. The way that
it was
last
fine,
shot
it looked
still
like
is very...
It looked like he just did it.
Yeah.
Like it was fresh.
Like, you're not going to have time to make it look good.
But as I wrote, he finally hung himself.
Yeah.
This should have happened before the movie started.
I was like, he tied that noose real quick. I think he had it laying around. Like, it would have been great if this character had, like, just a noose on the top of the wall. And he's like, one day. But I do say this. The movie ended the right way.
Yes.
Definitely.
It wouldn't have had the same effect as if he just got arrested and caught and everything like that.
If he was like sitting in a jail cell.
Yeah,
he
it was
can't
like-
have sharp objects, but we gave him some clay.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same.
That would have been all right, but it's not.
Because if you're going to make a comment about it, and this is where most movies are a cop-out, they'll do the like, oh, you get arrested, and it's like, he'll go to jail, and...
They'll put some words on the screen about
But it
the
like
trial.
that doesn't prove your point. I was like, there's only two ways this movie can end. Is one, I could see him getting away with it, and them just being like, what, it's art, baby?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, hey...
You're saying there's two ways out of this place, the door or the window.
Yeah. Like, it would have been... I imagine, like, an ending where if they would have just been like, no problem, man. It's a new type of art, you know? It's living. It's life. And, like, everybody's cool with it, you know? Like, maybe the poet just kind of is like, no, man, you guys just don't get it.
Because you can't kill the same person twice. Repetition is death.
Yeah, see? That's what I'm saying. It could end like that, or he hangs himself and becomes the art,
It's the
which is
better
great.
ending.
Yeah.
That he makes himself immortal.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great ending, and it's a good movie.
Good movie. Recommended.
Yeah, we don't
I
have to
recommend.
ask around the horn. I mean, we all clearly are pretty into this. I think it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of significant that this came out a year before Psycho. It's kind of an interesting companion piece. This is basically hipster Psycho. You know,
I would call it the allegory of the nice guy.
Oh, it totally is. It absolutely is. This follows all of that.
The quote nice guy.
The quote nice guy. You know, like, I did everything for this girl.
What you
I became famous. I can support her.
Yeah.
I offered her marriage, and she denied me. She needs to die.
Yeah, fuck her.
like, why can't I find a guy like you? I am a guy like me. Well, I don't mean you. You know, and he's just like, you're gonna die. I'm entitled to you because I did something.
So
I was nice once.
Yeah, why won't you fuck me?
That's how it works. I watch television. Stupid slobs get hot girls just for showing up. I mean, am I right, everybody at this table?
Bobby's got a bunch of red pills out.
He's taking them one by one.
I don't know what's in them.
I've been reading these websites, you guys. They're making a lot of really good points.
He's just held up a sign that says enlightenment. Is what's...
He's wearing a shirt that has Bob Ross in a pickup truck.
Do you guys hear that sound? How do you think Bobby and DeVito would fit in the world of Bucket of Blood, Bobby?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, after this is all done, we go back to the club, you know, and they're back trying to get back to business as usual. They got a better busboy now. He's moving some things. We pan over to one table, and there's Bobby and DeVito wearing berets, and they're explaining to Carla that yeah, you know, we do art too. What kind of artists? We work particularly with rags.
I can see, like, have you ever seen the movie Happiness?
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's character just jacks off into his hand and then puts postcards on the wall. I feel like that's kind of
like we haven't been inside the Straight Arrow in a while. There's a lot of art.
You just see Bobby and DeVito standing towards the wall, just one hand going fast, and then
with their other hands they're holding plungers and they're wearing crowns. Yeah, we're full of art now.
What do you think, dude?
I think they have their gaudy gray van now, and
I almost spit LaCroix all over this table.
That was good.
By the way, did you know there's a character whose last name is LaCroix in this movie?
I didn't catch that.
oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Go check the IMDb.
This episode is sponsored by LaCroix.
They find out that if you just start smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and spitting random stuff, they can lure women into their van, and that's how they get whatever her name was, Ayala, Naola, with the horse, and then they start this nice horse train.
You know, Naola is exactly what they're hoping to.
Yeah, Naola is their woman.
You kidding me? They get out of the parking lot. She's already in the van.
I could see them walking into this gray world. And then just be like,
The van goes through a portal back in time.
I could see Bobby doing a little poetry with a beret.
It's like a
Going
reverse Wizard of Oz. They wake up and everything's black and white.
Like, you could see him getting on stage and he's like, DeVito's playing the bongos, you know. And Bobby's on the mic and he goes,
shades.
With his feet.
he's like, driving down the highway, looking for a broad. Says she's in the studs and that she likes the vans. I don't know where to go.
It doesn't. You don't need anything. It's freeform.
Yeah, you just
Takes
go,
the
man. You
vans.
just feel it.
Get inside my van. Have some toast. Take this rag. Chloroform her. She'll not remember.
straight as an arrow.
Ooh. Oh, that ending's good. And everyone's just feeling it, man.
Yeah, everybody's
because
feeling
they're all
it.
aware.
But
all heard.
the thing is,
They heard.
He
They
ends,
listened and they heard.
he ends the set with a giant heart. The thing is, like, Bobby's back is turned to the audience, and then he spins around, and he's got like some sort of
There's a little crown on that.
he's got an American flag protruding from his pants. And he says, America. Yeah, that's all I got. Sorry, I tried to come up with a Beatnik Bobby poem on
that
top of my
works.
head. Probably didn't work. But I could definitely see them going like, hey, Bobby, this broad says $25 an hour. I don't know what we get for it, but
She'll get naked.
by the way, she doesn't take it up front. You mean she likes it in the back? No, Bobby, I mean the money. The money. But actually, I'll ask her that one. You got anything else more to add?
I have nothing to add to this episode.
Thank you for joining us. Grindhousefilm.com. You can find us on Twitter at GrindPod, Facebook, The Grindbin Podcast, Instagram, The Grindbin Podcast. Please rate and review this show on iTunes, and thanks for listening.
Bobby, stab a cat.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Yeah, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
Spooky ain't got no field coach.
Hello, pizza man.